Yeah, man.
All right, man. All
Thursday
right.
night. Thursday night reality check. This is it. I got a special guest, man. Awesome guy, Bobby Dino. Bobby, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, man. I was rocking out to your intro music. I was sitting here. I've yeah, I got the beach right here. I've had a couple IPAs already, and I'm like, all
All
right,
right.
Tony's got the intro music.
Good, man. Yeah, that was
Yeah,
made for me by one of my co-hosts, usually here, Gonzo, on Thursday nights. So
cool.
Gonzo and Primal Man, they'll probably be jumping in. They're running late tonight. But yeah,
Okay, cool.
Bobby, I met you. It was in 2019. I
Yeah, it
think it was
was.
right at the 21 convention,
Yeah,
and you did give a speech at the Patriarch convention, I believe it was, correct?
yeah. I sure did. Yeah.
Okay. And you've got an incredible life story that I think everybody's going to really enjoy tonight. Um, I'd like to say, I'll say from this is kind of I guess a manosphere black pill term. So we'll say from prison cell to a win cell, which
Yeah,
means
sure.
you're winning now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's I think it's going to be a good story, and I hope we can kind of dive deep into some of your life experiences. And I think what this will do tonight is help out a lot of guys who are in a bad place. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And I think it was MD that had said on a stream here not too long ago. MD is MGTOW Dictionary. He said, but
Okay.
a smart man learns from his mistakes. A wise man learns from others' mistakes.
Yeah.
And that really hit me hard because especially if you're a younger guy out there now and going through some difficulties or not sure which way to go, I'm hoping that you can bring some perspective to these guys' lives, whether it's a young guy, older guy. So that's the plan tonight, and I'm excited to have you here, man.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here, and for everybody that's watching, when I did that 21 convention, the Patriarch edition, uh, Tony was behind the scenes, and I remember him coming up to me and going, "Hey, anything you need, any help you need with anything, you just come and let me know." And I remember Tony just being one of the realest, coolest guys there, to where I was like, "Oh man, this dude is really this guy's really cool." So when you reached out and said, "Hey, I got this show," man, I'm more than happy to do something with you, man. So this is cool. I'm glad to
Well,
be here.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that, and it was great meeting you there for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
So let's get into a little bit of your life. Let's talk about, you did spend some time in prison, and we'll get to that. But let's
Hmm.
talk about, where you grew up, how you grew up, and then kind of lean toward what happened in your life. So
Well,
let's
sure.
let's start, say, when you're in your early teens.
Yeah, sure. Well, I to understand my early teens, I'll go back just a tad bit farther. My father died before I was born, and I think that as far as influences, or rather lack of influence goes, I think that in my formative years, that was something that definitely weighed heavily. Not only just the absence of a solid role model, because everybody would always tell me, "Oh, your dad was such a great guy," and they'd get all emotional when they were talking about him. And for them, I didn't blame them. They knew him. I never got the chance to meet him, so it was just kind of like a, "Oh, what if?" or "Oh, yeah, okay, sure." But when I look back on places where I kind of started to go wrong, I believe that was uh, a major factor in where things could have been right, but I just didn't have him here, or have him there rather, to be a part of my life. So by the time I was in my teens, I was already living with my grandparents. My mom had some mental health issues, and she basically remarried and started another family, and I was just a remnant of something she would rather forget. So I was with my grandparents at that point while she was, having my brothers and sisters and trying to play Susie Homemaker. And my grandparents were born in 1920 and 1922, respectively. So it was real easy to pull the wool over their eyes.
Mm.
I was this kid that was kind of wild, and when they'd say something, it was just like, oh, gee, shucks, grandma and grandpa, and it was easy to kind of just do whatever I wanted because they were already old, and it was hard for them to keep up, you know. So I was already kind of going that way in high school. Made a lot of bad decisions. I got a scholarship to a local university here and all that, but I just blew it off because I wanted to play rock and roll music.
Hmm.
I mean, just stuff to where there wasn't really that discipline and that direction. Now, granted, we're all responsible for the decisions we make, and I'll be the first to say that I don't try and put any decisions that I've made in my life off on anyone else. I ultimately had a choice and I chose poorly. I think that had I had maybe a coach, or a father in that matter, maybe I would have made some better ones, but still my choice. So uh, by the time I was in my late teens, I was already involved in some criminalistic enterprises.
Hmm.
I had family members that were living that kind of life, and I I saw I don't want to say glamour because I don't know that that's the right word, but I saw the appeal. They had chicks around all the time. They had lots of money, and I thought, oh, that's cool. Uh, so I kind of went in that direction, and then before I really knew it, I caught a major case and ended up going to prison for 10 years.
Can we talk about what kind of case it was? Is it something you want to talk about?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I don't want to go too deep in particulars, only to respect the victim and victims of the case. But essentially, it was I got arrested, uh, tried, and convicted for an assault with a GBI, which is a great bodily injury,
Hmm.
and someone got hurt really badly,
Now,
and
you're a big guy. I mean, you're a big guy. I met you. You're a towering figure for sure.
yeah, yeah, it was. Well, the person that everybody's got the ego. A lot of people want to be tough guys and want to be whichever, and not that the person was necessarily as big as me, but they had a big game they were talking, and they um, they essentially ran their mouth in my apartment, and when I asked them to leave, uh, they they kind of did one of those things to where when they went by me, they did like one of these, you know, and when they did that, I just took off on them. Um, Now, had I just maybe hit them once or twice, uh, that could have maybe been the end of it, and I would have maybe not gotten in any trouble. But I really went to work on them, and they ended up having to have some emergency head surgeries, and it was deemed unjustifiable, my response to the situation, and that's where I originally, when I went to prison, it was for 5 years at 85%. So when you have a serious or violent crime in California, you do 80 or 85% of your time, respectively. And so I went in at 85%, and then while I was inside, I picked up a institutional possession of marijuana and ended up catching 6 more years. to run consecutive, which means I had to finish my first sentence before the next one would
Wow.
begin. Yeah, so it was funny because, again, my decision, I knew what the game was, but um, they they found an empty bag that had like the residual, the dust in there. So the official court um, proceeding or transcript or whatever, it was 0.001 grams of marijuana. And I did more for that than I did for like
Wow.
seriously injuring someone. Yeah. Because I was already in there and already had what they refer to as a strike in California. It was a strikeable offense. So,
And
and
what years were this? What years were this? What was
this
the?
was the year that I entered, or that I
Yeah.
caught the first
Yeah.
charge, was 2000.
Okay.
So I was inside from 2000 to 2010. I picked up the second charge in 2004 sometime. It was like towards the end of 2000, like, or the middle end of 2004. Um, so yeah, that was 2000 to 2010 is when I was actually incarcerated.
Wow.
Yeah.
Let's go back a little. Do you think that any of this came from just, I mean, realistically, we talk about lack of fathers. I mean, you said you didn't
hmm
have a father figure.
hmm
Do you think that this really goes back to that?
You know,
Not somebody to whoop your ass and keep you in line, you know?
the only problem I have with that, Tony, with answering a question like that, is
Hmm.
because it seems like I'm trying to negate responsibility
Yeah,
if I say that.
I
You
understand.
know, and it's hard for me to say that because one of the things that helped me turn my life around was taking full responsibility for everything in my life, for everything that was going on, for everything that the decisions I made, the people I was choosing to hang out with, all that stuff. I had to take responsibility for that in order for my life to get better, because otherwise it was just constantly blaming someone else. Oh, if only the cops wouldn't have caught me. Oh, if only that person wouldn't have lied. Oh, if only that guy wouldn't have told on me, or something. And when you live life like that, it's like everything could be an excuse,
Hmm.
and you never really have to take responsibility. I mean, I think that life may have been better had I had that father figure that was there helping direct my at the help me direct the rudder of the ship, so to speak. Maybe I may have been the captain, but hey, he might have been a good navigator or
Hmm.
something. But the fact of the matter is that's just all supposition. I wouldn't be able to say for sure. Who knows? Maybe I mean, not to speak ill of the dead, but maybe my dad would have been some big dirt bag, that wouldn't have been involved in my life at all. I don't know, but I do know that I made those choices and I suffered the consequence.
Well, I appreciate you saying that because I'm very big on accountability.
Yeah.
And I think accountability is important. And you're taking extreme ownership of your situation, even at a young age. When we were talking about your early teens, you had
hmm
said, you basically said I'm accountable for what I did, and that's rare. Somebody would even hold themselves accountable at an early age.
Well, it's because no. The funny thing about accountability is that a lot of people will talk about it, but very
Hmm.
few will want anything to do with it, because it's so much easier to just blame someone else,
Hmm.
and to just people are constantly trying to shuck responsibility. That's why we have courts and lawyers and all this other stuff, is to get out of our being guilty, y- and to put the blame elsewhere. The only problem with that is it won't get you any farther in life, because if if you're going to say that your problem isn't your problem, then why do you have to fix something that's not your problem?
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's like, well, it was really someone else, or oh, this guy's partially. Well, then what are we talking about? You didn't do anything. It was someone else. But
Hmm.
if you say, hey, that was my choice or my responsibility or whatnot, well, then you have all the power. You have all the power, because then you can say, all right, well, I may have done it bad this time, but next time I won't do this because I'm the one that's in charge of the choice. I'm the one that can say whether or not this flies or not. So even though it may seem like or it may seem as if one is giving up a type of freedom, if anything, you're taking the ultimate freedom and owning your shit and and being
Yeah,
responsible for what you've
that's
done.
good. I love the way you said that. Yeah, you're giving yourself the ultimate freedom by owning up to
Yeah,
what you did. You know,
yeah.
and that's very rare, I think.
Well, maybe. I don't know. These are just some things, about halfway through my sentence, and this was after I had caught that extra time. Uh, I realized that my trajectory was just going into the toilet. I was still in prison, and it was like, okay, either I'm going to die in here or I'm just never going to get out of here, which ultimately amounts to the same thing. And I had to really search and really figure out what I could do differently than what I'd been doing, you know. And one of the main things uh, that I had just seen myself doing my whole life, when I did a real honest self-assessment of who I was and where I was at, was I was constantly trying to shuck responsibility. You know, it was a constant just again, the thing about not having the father, and this is kind of why I'm reluctant to really
Hmm.
dive into the what ifs, was because that was an easy one. That was an easy one. Oh, if only I would have had a dad,
Hmm.
then maybe none of this would have had. Oh, if only my mom wasn't crazy, and if only I had a dad, then maybe I'd be in a different spot. And the hard truth was, nah, man, you just make shitty choices, and that's why you're in this spot. It's not the lack of dad or lack of whatever. Those may have been um, things that could have influenced, right? But they weren't responsible for. I was responsible for, and I really had to own that before I could go anywhere farther than where I was.
Let's go. Let's even go back a little farther now. Let's go back to
Sure.
when you got your sentence.
Hmm.
What kind of shock to the system is that? Knowing you're going to be locked up, know you're going to lose your rights, knowing, you know, what kind of shock to the system is that? And the reason I'm asking this is because there's going to be a
Yeah.
lot of, they say a lot of young guys or other guys that are watching this that are in a bad spot, or, you
Hmm.
know, I mean, we're given a life lesson here. It's like, you know, you made the choice to whoop on this guy, and now you're
Hmm.
paying for it. So what kind of
Right.
shock was to the system was it for you to know, okay, now I'm going to be incarcerated, now I'm going to be locked up?
Well, there's a couple different ways which that kind of happens with. So with the first with my incarcerating offense, right? The one that was the assault. I ended up pleading guilty. I got a plea deal, but anytime you get a plea deal, you're pleading guilty. Or some people, especially if you've got money, you can plead nolo contendere, which is essentially the same thing. It's like
Mhm.
it's like accepting responsibility without pleading guilt. Okay, but it amounts to the same thing. You're busted. Okay, um, so I knew that this was going to happen. The main scary thing with that, never having been to prison, was just what to expect. Well, I did 15 months in the county. So by that time, I was 24 when I knew that I was going upstate. And you hear all these awful. I mean, the same stories that everybody tries telling on the streets. You know, you're hearing all these things, and you're like, oh my God, I'm going to be up there with the really gnarly guys. You know, so that was it was an anxiety. Um, I mean, definitely something to be worried about. Um, the 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 second case, I fought it because I didn't that bag that I'm telling you about, I didn't have it on me. So so since they found it near me, uh, I just denied that it was mine. You know,
Mhm.
I said, "Hey, that's not my stuff," and and I had to get a lawyer, and I actually went to trial over it. So instead of pleading, making a plea deal, I actually was going through a trial. Now, the bummer part about that was they had Mirandized me um, when they found it, and I had already learned my lesson from the first case and said, I'm not giving any statements. I want a lawyer present during any statements I'm going to give, right? But when I
And for
went through,
anybody that doesn't know, that's your Miranda rights. Is that what you're talking about?
oh yeah, when I said Mirandize me, yeah. So that's Miranda rights, or when they you see it on TV, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. Uh, and so when I went through that trial, um, one of the one of the police officers that they called as a witness got up on the stand and said, "Oh yeah, he admitted that it was his, and he told me while I was transporting him that that was his stuff and blah blah blah." And I mean, just got up there and lied. He
Mhm.
got up on the stand and completely lied, right? So that was a shock. Like, wow, this cop's getting on the stand right now and lying under oath. Like, I can't believe it, right? And then after, even though I had witnesses for my behalf that included like free staff and other prison personnel, I was still found guilty. So being found guilty in a trial is a lot more just heart sinking, you know, because you know what you're facing. You're putting your future essentially in the hands of 12 strangers, and then the judge or the court clerk reads that you're guilty, and you're just like, especially when you were found guilty under false testimony, or yeah, I mean that's essentially what it was, because um, I mean, had that cop told the truth or just not have been a witness at all, since the only thing he had to say was a lie, you know, then
Mhm.
I had a really good chance of being acquitted. But since he got up there and said what he said, that was it. That was a wrap. And it's like, who are you going to believe? This police officer, this sworn officer of the court, or this guy that's been in the joint for the past 4 years? So yeah, I mean, that was that.
Yeah.
So that one was a little bit more heartbreaking.
Let's talk about when you go in there, for somebody who doesn't know. In other words,
Mhm.
what's an average day in prison? What what happens?
Well, uh, again, I mean, if you're just the average day is going to be a lot different for someone that's been there for a minute versus
Mhm.
someone that's just showing up.
Yeah,
You know, it,
let's say the guy who just shows up. What happens the first couple weeks you're in there?
okay, so the guy that just shows up, he just came from a reception yard
Mhm.
or a reception prison, so he's been living life a little bit differently. Not as much yard time, not as much freedom of movement. Doesn't get the same kind of amenities that someone on a main line or a general population would. Um, and you finally make it to a prison, and you're usually they call it CTQ, or confined to quarters. So the first few days, or the first whichever you're there, while they're making sure your reception points. So they have like a point system.
Just, I don't want to throw you off for 1 minute, but
Yeah,
when if a guy asks a question, if you feel like answering it, I don't want to throw you off your train of thought. So
yeah.
you want
No,
to
it's
answer
okay.
the question, as they come in, feel free,
Okay.
So,
Oh, are you talking about this one right here, the
yeah,
area,
yeah.
the AB? Okay, first of all, the AB, they aren't walking around in general population in California. They like if you're a verified or a documented gang member, which the AB is, they're considered by California to be a gang. Um, so those kind of guys are usually in the SHU, which is a secured housing unit, or administrative segregation. They aren't just walking around on the yard.
Hmm.
Uh, there's a few different there's a few different groups that are like that, and so I now that doesn't mean that there aren't sleepers, which are like people that are kind of undercover, people that haven't been documented or whatever. But I I kind of made it known early that I wasn't going to be involved in being a skinhead or an
Hmm.
Aryan brother. But again, and if it seems like I'm tap dancing around this, it's because I know what can happen. Okay.
Hmm.
I'm not trying to say anything bad about the AB. I'm not trying to say anything bad about anybody that is.
Hmm.
Okay. Good for you. Live your life or whatever. Like, I'm just saying that as far as I'm concerned, I didn't ever get into that because a lot of people make the mistake of thinking that these guys only have a reach that's behind bars,
Hmm.
and these guys can reach out and touch you wherever you're at.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I was never a part of the Aryan Brotherhood, and would not pretend to be either.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's, I didn't mean to interrupt you there, but yeah,
Yeah,
let's go
it's all right.
back to the average day, now that
Yeah.
you're in there.
Yeah, so you roll up on the yard. They're gonna if you're a white guy, uh, someone that's involved in the politics, whether it probably won't be the shot caller, but it might be, but one of his little minions, they're going to find out where you're from, like what county you're from, whichever, and someone from your county usually is going to check your paperwork. Now, what that means is there's this form, they call it a 128, and that's just the document number. All these forms they all have little numbers to them, and it just happens to be 128. But it's an information form. So essentially, they can put anything on a 128 because it's almost like kind of like a memo form, right? But
Mhm.
in this case, they're using it to document what your criminal history or current charges are. Um, so for your current charges, when somebody says, "Let me see your paperwork," they're talking about that 128 form, which shows why you're there. So when someone says, "Let me see your paperwork," you got to produce that form. Especially when you show up. I mean, if you've already been there for a minute and someone's like, "Let me see your paperwork," I mean, you could play it hard and be like, "Hey, fucking go get your paperwork, motherfucker." I mean, if you wanted to, right? But
Now,
I mean, if
are
you're
you talking about other inmates, not like
Oh no,
guards?
this is other inmates. Yeah, yeah, this is other inmates, and so they're wanting to see what you're there for, and that form is like the official form that says why you're there. Because I mean, if you're a rapist or a child molester, and someone comes up and says, "Why are you here?" You're not going to say because I'm a rapist or a child molester.
Mhm.
You're going to try and lie your ass off around that because they're going to try and hurt you real bad or just take your breath. But if when they're asking for that, that's what they want to see. So you'll show it to someone, and then that'll kind of dictate whether you're all right or not, and just all right in the sense that you're not a piece of shit. And then after that, you just kind of you click up with your homeboys who are people from either your city or your county or whatever, and you either hang out with them, playing cards, working out, whatever. There's a lot of guys that kind of just stick to themselves, or maybe don't hang out so much, but you're still expected. Everything in California state prison system is very racial. I mean, for as liberal as this state
Well, that was
is,
going to be my question. What's
yeah.
the percentage of like black to Hispanic to white to, I mean,
Well,
realistically, these are the, what's the ratio when you're in there? I
there's this big misconception, and it's kind of this narrative that's pushed that's like, oh, the prison system is overflowing with blacks, like it's just all black people, and it's so unfair and this and that. What I found was that blacks and whites, the numbers would be roughly about the same, but what there was an overwhelming presence of was Mexicans.
Mhm.
So like for example, in a housing unit, right? About 300 people to a housing unit. You'd have maybe 75 whites, 75 blacks, and 150 Mexicans. Like, I mean, it was overwhelmingly like they were the most populated one in there. The only thing that really, I suppose, kept them from just running everything was the fact that there's a few different gangs when it comes to them. Blacks, you have Crips and Bloods. Whites, you have it's the Woods. They call it the Wood Pile, or the Woods are like the kind of non-gang affiliated whites. But you might also have like some skinheads, uh, some P9, some Aryan Brotherhood, right?
biker guys too,
Yeah,
biker.
yeah, yeah, some small numbers of that. But with the Mexicans, there was the Sureños, the Norteños, the Border Brothers, the Bulldogs, the Paisas. Like you had five, like you had all these different groups to where if they would have ever just done this and all come together, I mean, they'd run everything in the place because they just vastly outnumbered everyone else.
Do you think this is specific to California, the ratio?
I think it could be.
Mhm.
Absolutely. California, we share that Mexican border.
Mhm.
So, there's always been a real strong Mexican. I mean, it used to be Mexico. Yeah, a lot of our cities are still, it's Spanish names. So I think that it could be something specific to California for sure. One of the things that really tripped me out, though, once I did go in and kind of saw how it was, is I had never been in that much a racist environment in my life, ever, and still haven't. I mean, it it was so racist that it bordered on ridiculousness.
Mhm.
How racist it was, and you think for how liberal California is supposed to be and all that, that it wouldn't be that way. That everybody be giving each other hugs and singing "Kumbaya" or whatever. But no, man, it was really. I mean, there were rules. So for example, like let's say let's say I'm dying of thirst, right? I just ran 50 laps and I'm about to drop dead from heat exhaustion. If a black guy said, "Here you go, Bob, have a drink," I couldn't take that drink. I couldn't do it, or my own people would get me, and I'd be handled because that came from a black guy. If I'm if a black guy's smoking a cigarette, or if I'm smoking a cigarette and he like asks for a hit, I could give him that cigarette, but I can't take it back from him
Wow.
because his lips touched it. But the funny thing with that is that there were all those rules, but when it came to dope, when it came to drugs, like all bets were off. So like I couldn't drink after a black guy, but I could slam heroin that came out of his asshole when he came back from visit. That was okay.
Mhm.
But don't drink out of the same cup as him, you know.
And
So
is
I'm
that really? I mean, the drugs would be really a money thing, right? Isn't that what it's all about? Isn't it currency? I mean, that's the bottom line, is that it's currency.
Well, it's used to make currency.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, it's there's a lot of drug addicts in there, and even people that weren't necessarily drug addicts before became drug addicts when they got there. You know, so I mean, can it be used as currency? Sure, but a lot more people were just using it,
Mm-hmm.
is what it was. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Drugs is a big thing. And
So realistically, I mean, what we're talking about is on my notes here. I have a prison hierarchy, and so that's kind of what it's about. So let's talk about prison hierarchy. In other words, what can you do and what you can't do? Do you have to get approval of something? Now, I'm going to make something clear too, that you're a bigger guy. Again, you're a big guy. You know, I met you. You're a giant, and that has to make a difference in a hierarchy system. There has to be definitely some advantages to being a giant.
well, there's yes and no, and let me. The reason why I say no is because, okay, I've been in more riots than I can count. Okay, I don't remember how many riots I've been in. It's just been a bunch. Okay, but I never got a one-on-one in a riot,
Mm-hmm.
because right when that thing would start, you know, I mean, there's a little strategy uh, before those things kick off, you know, and it'd be like, okay, you, and you get Bobby. So that wasn't really an advantage to me,
Okay.
you know, because I'd be getting rat packed by a bunch of people and having to, you know, I never, as much as I'd like to make myself out to be, you know, Bruce Lee or something like that. Now, I will say this: I never lost my feet, like I never went down,
Okay.
but I never walked away unscathed. I
Mm-hmm.
was always bleeding or like something, you know, because it was like I was getting attacked on multiple fronts. The only thing that really, I guess, was God looking out, if I could say anything, was the fact that most people can't fight, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And so if you do have a little bit of fight training, which I did growing up, then it gave me an advantage. You know, it allowed me to use a little bit of footwork and to kind of get angles on people and you know, not to keep my head right, to not just go crazy and, you know, lose my cool. But I mean, if I would have had, if I would have had three or four people that like knew how to fight attack me at once, I mean, they could have killed me,
Mm-hmm.
you know, straight up. You know, as much as I'd like to make it the other way and make it sound like I was, you know, Hercules in there or some shit. You know, a lot of it was just there was some skill, but there was a lot of luck.
Mm-hmm.
You know, yeah,
Yeah. Well, this is reality check night. So we're giving
yeah,
some reality to people who, you know, you see, I think a lot of prison movies tend to glamorize prison life. You know what I mean? There are certain movies that will, you know, you'll see the mafia guys go in there and, you know, from Goodfellas, and they're
yeah,
got different cells and things like that. Then you look at a movie like American History X, which is a
yeah,
brutal. And I think that was
yeah,
California, if I'm not correct, you know,
yeah,
but, you know,
yeah.
if I'm,
You know, I've still yet to see any movie that's gotten it all the way right. There's a writer director named Rick Roman Waugh, and he did a movie called Felon, and then did another movie called Shot Caller, and those movies were probably the closest I've seen to like actual kind of how it is. You know, I mean, it's Hollywood, so there's got to be some embellishments or
yeah.
some bullshit. But those were probably the closest ones. But other ones that I've seen, you know, it's bullshit, and it is like a little bit of glamorization, and I think it's also just a little bit of not knowing what the hell they're talking about.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Um, you have a presence about you. So we'll go
Thanks.
back to that. We'll go back to the hierarchy thing.
Okay.
Do some guys just not make it? Do some guys just,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
what happens to that guy?
Well, it depends on why they didn't make it.
Mhm.
I've seen some people go crazy. That's a real thing. Some people just, yeah. One thing about prison is it's full of despair. It's just one of those places to where it's just it seems like all hope is just gone. You know, and that really weighs on some people. That's something that can really mess with a person's head. So I think that that's one way that I mean, and I met people that seem like just normal, sane people, and over the course of however many years or whatnot, like it would I watched them go nuts. Watched them either start talking to themselves or start hurting themselves, start playing with their own shit, start I mean like crazy people stuff, you know. So that's one way people don't make it. Another way people don't make it is they get caught up in their own hype, right? So they start thinking they're about something or about whatever, and they just start running their mouths. They start talking shit, they start doing this or that or whatever, and then they just talk shit to that wrong guy. It's as simple as that. They think they're this or that, and then they think they're this or that to the wrong person who pulls their card. Says, "Oh yeah, okay," and that's another real easy way to get wrecked. Um, Also, another thing that I saw that I never understood this, but there would be people that came in with bad crimes. So when I say like a bad case or a bad crime, that's like they were a child molester or they were a raper or they were something, right? But instead of going to the PC yard, the protective custody yard, now in California, or at least when I left, they had changed it from protective custody to SNY, which stands for Special Needs Yard, which is essentially the same thing. But instead of going to these SNY yards, they'd try and stay on the main line. They try and stay in general population, and they'd lie about their case, or they'd do whichever, or maybe they got their hands on either some phony paperwork or had someone else's or someone to, and it would always catch up with them. It would always, but for some reason they thought, oh, I'm gonna like maybe even though they did something bad, like they just couldn't bring themselves to, oh, well, I'm not like these people, even though they were exactly like those people, right? And yeah, those guys would get hurt pretty bad too. I mean, the worst crimes against humanity that I've ever seen, like, and when I say seen, I mean personally witnessed in real time with my own eyeballs, were done to child molesters and rapists. I mean, I've seen some horrible things happen to those people.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Wow. So that's part of the prison hierarchy. I mean, it really is, isn't it?
Yeah.
It kind of the shit runs downhill kind of thing. Why? I
Yeah.
mean, I can guess why people like that are the bottom of the food chain in prison. But
Yeah.
why is it? Why is that so bad in prison? I mean, I'm
Well,
sure everybody wants, because we've all heard that if you're a child molester, if you're a rapist or somebody like that, and you go to prison, they got to put you away, or you're just not going to last. Is
right.
it because somebody's thinking this could have been my daughter, my mother? You know,
Well, I'm gonna go a little deeper with that, Tony, because I've kind of had my own opinion on this for years. I mean, since was there. I think a lot of the people that are in prison or do end up going were somehow the victims of like a sexual assault or abuse, and I think that when they see, you know, they kind of understand, whether they can admit or not, they understand that that was a catalyst in their life that kind of sent them maybe in the wrong direction. And so when they see someone that's guilty of that, uh, all that inner hate and just turmoil that they couldn't take out on their abuser, now they've got them right in front of them. And I think that
Is that something that, like, somebody's getting their ass beat, and even though there's a witness, nobody's going to say anything? Like, it is what it is?
if they're one of those people,
Yeah.
if all they get is their ass beat, they got lucky.
Okay.
Yeah, because a lot of those people either get permanently deformed or dead.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, that's a, like, especially child molesters, but I mean rapers too, for that matter, get worked over pretty well. Yeah, like I said, I've seen some horrific shit happen to those people, man. And if all they do is just get touched up before they get taken away, they got lucky.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, let's go to one thing too. I want to talk about, I think it's called commissary, right? Is that what it's called? When somebody
Yeah. The store.
sends, you know, how important is it?
Yeah.
And the reason I say this, because, you know, I've had a good friend, and I think I might have talked to you about this, that was put away. And,
Okay.
and, I would send him money every month,
Mhm.
so he could buy things that he needed, whether talking to his kids,
Mhm.
you know, on the telephone. I think it was like, I want to say it was like $1 a minute or something
Oh
ridiculous.
yeah, probably more than that. Yeah.
But just being
Yeah.
able to really survive.
Mhm.
I think if he wanted to send an email, that was like $1 a minute or something on the computer.
Oh,
Um,
is this in Florida?
yeah.
Oh wow, we didn't have any of that type of stuff. We didn't have like email access or anything
Yeah.
like that. Yeah,
It
wow,
was, it was
that's cool.
federal. Let's just put it that way. It was
Oh, it
federal,
was federal. Okay, yeah,
even though it
federal's
was in
a little
Florida.
bit, yeah, federal's a little bit more cush than like state prison is.
Yeah.
They got
It's
that federal
that
money.
way. I'm not, I'm not,
Yeah.
not, you know, I'm
Hey,
not
it's still
making it,
prison.
you know, prettier than
Yeah.
it is, but it seemed to be a little more chill. But I
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
see that, you know, I think anybody who's in that situation, if you don't, like, did you have a family member or friends or anybody sending you anything so you could go to commissary and get, you know, cans of, you know, salmon, or, you know what I mean? Things that you needed, potato chips, or, you know, just things that the commissary sells.
Yeah. I mean, I my grandma would do that for me every so often. The last couple years that I was in there, um, I've known my wife since I was 14, and we were, you know, we were in each other's lives even through that. So um, when I had gotten in like when I had was talking to her more, she was doing that for me. I mean, she actually got me a cell phone my last couple of years that I was in there, because the calls were so outrageous. It was like 30, like a 15-minute collect call could be like $30.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so it was like it was cheaper just to get a cell phone and you know, talk that way than it was. And by the time I had left, cell phones were actually pretty common. Like, I mean, it wasn't like I was an outlier for having one. Like, lots of people had them, you know.
But you have to,
So
I mean, you're not supposed to have a cell phone, right? I mean,
no, but the funny thing is that they didn't have any law on the books about it. So it was considered contraband, right? But it wasn't like it was a misdemeanor or a felony or anything like that. Like, to put it in perspective, having an extra roll of toilet paper was also contraband.
okay.
If you had 3 bars of soap instead of 2 bars of soap, that was contraband. So I mean, when you it was something to where it was like you wouldn't really get in any trouble if you did. And that's one of the things. about prison too that 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 people don't realize is that you can't once you're there, you can't really follow the rules. Like there's always some kind of little standard or rule that you have to break. Um, because what happens is obviously you don't want to be a snitch, okay?
Hmm.
And even if you did want to snitch, if you went and did do it, 9 times out of 10, the cops would just turn around and go tell whoever you were snitching on that you're snitching, okay? Because they thought that shit was funny. Like, I mean, they would, like seeing inmates fight or seeing inmate like that was entertainment, you know. So and if let's say you were a porter, like someone that cleaned the house or something like that, and someone said, "Hey man, do you think you can get me like a little bit of soap so I can clean my dorm?" Right? Well, technically the answer was no. They couldn't do that, right? Because they'd be breaking a rule by giving it to you. But if you're the guy saying, "No man, I can't do it," be like, what the fuck? Are you the state now, motherfucker? You work for the fucking state that you're gonna fucking do these motherfuckers' job? Huh? Is that what it is? And then like you're catching yourself in a bind, like, well, okay, it's probably easier if I give you just the tablespoon of soap. You know what I mean? So it's like you couldn't never really follow the rules, now obviously if it's, something like, hey, you're going to take this heroin back from visit for me. Well, no, I'm not catching more time for you or anybody else, dude. So nah, you know, although there were a lot of youngsters that wanted to make a name for themselves or get some kind of clout that would do exactly that. They'd raise their hands for stupid stuff that would get them all types of more time. But it's a very kind of messed up environment that way because like just by the very nature of it, you couldn't just be 100% just on the up and up. There was always something, that
Is there, is there a lot of blackmail in prison? In other words, you do this, so you're going to get this.
um I mean, I don't know if that's necessarily like if that would be considered blackmail.
Hmm.
I mean,
It's just
there.
part of the internal
well,
system.
well, well. To me, blackmail, is more along the lines of, okay, you're going to give me money, or I'm going to show all these pictures of you
Mhm.
being, homosexual or cheating on your wife or something like that. That's more. But I mean, uh, yeah, there were people that would. I mean, there were all types of bullies in there, and sometimes they would try and push up on someone and be like, all right, check this out, you're going to do this and this and that, or I'm going to fuck you up, and then that person had a choice to make. They could either fight that guy and get rid of that guy, or show them that they weren't no punk or bitch, or they could just okay, I'll get you what you need, you know and uh, a lot of there were a lot of people that chose the latter. They didn't want to be that guy. So it was just like in their minds it was just, okay, well, I'll just help this guy out instead of getting messed up.
Yeah, I mean that seems to me like you have your laws for the prison, then you have your laws internally. I mean
Right.
that goes for a lot of groups, and that goes for a lot in regular life too. I mean, there's things that you do, but then there's also things that are gonna you got to be somewhat part of the, I guess, part of the crew when you're in there, right? I mean, you have to do something sometimes to to survive is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, when I first went in, that's what I thought. When I first went in, um there was this, oh, I gotta go with the flow, and I gotta, uh do what my people are doing, or because I didn't want to have I didn't want people to think I was a coward, or a bitch or a punk, um but then as I went on, I just kind of started coming to the realization that these people weren't going to do any time for me. These people weren't going to, they weren't going to go and start taking care of my son that was living his life without me, because I made a dumb fuck choice and ended up going there. So there was also this point to where I just kind of became fed up with the whole thing and just said, you know what? No, I'm not doing this. And that's what I did. Now, as mentioned earlier, especially back then, I did have some size on me. And I mean, I suppose that could have made it easier to make the decision I did. But if you're going to get rat packed by 10 people, it doesn't really matter how big you are, like you're going to get got. So I still had to make the decision of, am I going to live life according to my terms, or am I going to live life according to some piece of shit term that doesn't give a fuck about me and isn't going to have to pay any of my debts, you know? So that was also another kind of realization for me, was that, I am on my own. My decisions are mine, and the consequences I suffer are going to be mine too, and no one else's.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Got you.
Mm-hmm.
So you did about what, 10 years, 10, 11 years?
It was just shy of 10 years. It was like 9 years and 9.5 months or
Mm-hmm.
something like that. Yeah.
So
Just easier to say 10. I was
yeah,
about 2.5 months shy.
yeah. What
Yeah.
happens when you get out now? Now it's time, you're getting out. What kind of shock is that to the system? Because it's got to be another shock. I mean,
Yeah.
you got to be happy, but you also there's an adjustment time now.
Well, so about halfway through my term, I came to the realization, I was telling you, I had to take responsibility for my life. I had to come up with a plan. I didn't want to die in there. And if that was the case, then I had to be a productive member of society. And how was I going to do that? So I started putting formulating a plan on what I was going to do for a living and whatnot. And about 2 years before I came home, I already had it figured out, and was still actively working towards what I was doing. That made it a lot easier, as opposed to some guy that's just released, doesn't know what the hell he's going to do, and now he's just back out on the street, and all of a sudden has to pay bills and has to do a bunch of shit he didn't have to do for a decade,
Mm-hmm.
and then the life of crime just starts looking really appealing again. Um, but still, there's definitely an anxiety. There's, one of the bummer parts is that there's this. One of the things I heard so much before I got out, because it was my first term, even though it was 10 years, it was the first time I'd been, so it was my first term in prison, and I had so many people telling me like, oh, life's going to be so fucked for you when you get out. You won't be able to get a job. No one's going to want to hire you. No one's going to want anything to do with you. Your parole agent's going to try and put you back in. They don't want you out there either. They're going to look for any excuse to make you go back. You know, so there's that in your head. Like, oh man, all the cards are stacked against me. I'm screwed. Uh, and then you actually have to deal with these parole agents, right? And a lot of what these guys are saying um, isn't necessarily incorrect, because they do have. I mean, they've got caseloads of hundreds of you, and they're and the recidivism rate. I think now it's down to about 67%, but at the time when I got out, it was up in the 80s, right? So it was like people were just, it was a revolving door. So
Gotcha.
so they were just used to people just, going back in and whatnot. So you've got to deal with these people that there is no like compassion or wanting to see you make it or whatever. You're just another number who's going to probably end up going back anyway, and you're a piece of shit because you had to have been in order to go to prison. So there was a little bit of that. The thing that personally, because I had already been studying and been doing some of the vocation stuff while on the inside. Um, the stuff that was hard for me was like the actual adult life kind of stuff, like paying bills,
Mm-hmm.
you know, uh, um, uh, ta I don't want to say that that I brought that prison lingo home with me or anything like that, but I was a lot more direct and to the point than most people in society were used to.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I just say what I meant, and I just tell you, and if you didn't like it, fuck off. You
Mm-hmm.
know, and a lot of people weren't used to that shit. So it's like I almost kind of had to learn the politics of regular society, you know, just how to talk to people without scaring them or offending them, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And then there were like little stupid things like this is gonna seem dumb, okay, but one of the things that really tripped me out was the whole yoga pants thing, right? So when I went in, chicks didn't just fucking wear yoga pants by themselves. That just didn't happen. You know, like I never see that. And then when I got out, they were just all. I was like, the fuck is this shit, dude? It's like they're walking around naked. Damn. Like to me, it was like you could see everything. Like whoa, what the hell? You know. So that was a that was
It's
something
amazing what
that
will happen in 10 years, huh?
yeah, I was like, whoa, check this out. You know. And then some of the some of like and this was actually a reaffirmation of that I was doing something right, but you know there was a lot of people that I either hung out with or cared about, you know, before I went inside, right? And I wanted to see what my old friends were up to, you know. I wanted to see how they're, and man, I mean, down to the posters on the wall, they were like in the same exact spot, you know, same,
Uh-huh.
doing the same thing, doing the same whatever, same schedule, same this, and it's like it that was something for me to where it was like, wow, like when people say, you know, oh, you haven't changed a bit, some like a lot of people will like look at that as like a compliment, you know, like, oh wow, you haven't changed at all. But like in reality, like that could be like an insult, you
Yeah.
know, because as you get older, you should change a
Yeah.
little bit. You shouldn't be doing the same shit in your 30s that you were doing in your teens and 20s. You shouldn't be. You know, there should be some level of advancement there. So that was something to me to where I was like, oh wow, man, like okay, this is why I'm not hanging out with these people. Like this is why, you know, I'm doing what I'm doing, because I'm talking like the same clothes, the same video games, the same, like just it was a trip to me. Like wow, you did not progress not one fucking iota in 10 years, you know. So
So, so let's talk about how you changed after you got out of prison. In other words, you know, in other words, what good did it do for you to make you create a better life now? Because you're successful now.
mhm.
If anybody doesn't know, I did leave a description for Bobby's YouTube channel and his Twitter, and you have a pretty big Twitter following also. So you got about 20,000
Yeah,
people, you know.
yeah, it's somewhere around, yeah. And then I've got it up there under my name heading, but the bobbydino.com, for those of you that don't know, that's actually what got me known on these social media platforms. I have a blog on there to where I've written about a bunch of these prison stories and a lot of life lessons. So I mean, if you're interested in reading about any of those, you can go over there and check it out and you know, I get pretty specific on a lot of stuff, and there's some good lessons to be learned there. But as far as what changed, like I'm not sure if I get the question. So
Well,
like what?
what in other words, you had a, in other words, you went to prison, but you're a success story where a lot of guys you say are, it's a revolving door. So
Hmm.
how did it change you and not change other people?
Well, because I took responsibility and I enacted I took responsibility, I committed to a plan, and then I did it.
Hmm.
Those three things right there can make anyone leaps and bounds ahead of probably 99% of the population, whether they've been in prison or not.
Hmm.
You know, because most people don't accept responsibility. Uh, uh, even fewer than that, like create a plan that they're going to implement, and probably fewer still actually do it.
Hmm.
So the fact that I went through all three of those, I think is what set me apart from most of the guys that, yeah. And look, I'm not the only guy that's ever done that. There's other success stories. It's just they're few and far between. And just like, I mean, for people that are on Twitter, there's like this area called money Twitter, to where it's like people talking about starting businesses and starting
Hmm.
to, and you being a business owner, you'll be able to relate to this. you know uh, it's a very trying thing starting a business.
Hmm.
Most people, a lot of people will talk about it. Probably 1 or 2% will do it, and out of that 1 or 2%, there's probably only another couple percent from that that actually stay following through and stay committed to the process. You know, and they don't ever had to have need to have been in prison. I mean, it's just kind of one of those universal things to where it's like lots of people talk, but very few have that follow through and keep it going. And I think that for me, that was the big factor, was the fact was that I stayed committed to the process. And always, one of the toughest things to do. It's easier, Jesus said it. It's like, why do you look at the splinter in someone else's eye when you've got a log sticking out of your own eye, right? So it's easy to look at other people and say, oh, well, this and that. But as far as an honest self-assessment, as far as like looking at your own bullshit and going like, gee, what do I need to do, or what do I need to change? Very few people can do that. And I think that that's a extremely important part of being successful in any field, whether even if it's just something like self-improvement, right? Is just being able to look at yourself honestly, like you're on the outside looking in and going, okay, what's your problem, or what's your problems? And once you can honestly answer those questions, then you can take the next logical step of, okay, now what do I do to fix those? And I think that it, those all have those were all the major players in being able to do what I did.
I'm want to go back because there was one question I missed. Is
Okay.
that how important, not just to you, we'll start with you and other people in prison. How important was your faith? How important is it to believe in God when you're in prison? I mean, I think that's going to be important to a lot of people.
Well, excuse me. It really depends on what side of the fence you're looking at that from, because people that were religious. Okay, so everybody was supposed to run with their respective race groups or gangs or whatever, right? That was just, it's part of the rules that's expected of you. One of the ways that you can get out of that was if you claim religion, like, oh no, I don't participate in this stuff. I'm a Christian.
Hmm.
Oh no, I'm not participating in this blood and crip thing. I'm a Muslim, right? And so that was their way of getting out of, having to be in riots or having to deal with politics or having to whichever, right? And a lot of people looked at that as being a coward, being a dropout. That was one of the things. A dropout was a common term, which just meant that you weren't running with your race or you weren't doing whatever, you had dropped out. And so while while in the regular free world, we might look at someone who's a devout man as like, wow, that's really courageous that in the face of all this craziness and adversity and evil going on in the world, this person's holding true to their faith. Good for them. And there it was like, oh, this dude's a Christian. He's a bitch,
Hmm.
you know. So it it, it wasn't something that was looked at with any. The only people that admired it were other Christians
Hmm.
or other people of the which other, because everyone else just thought that you were hiding. You
Hmm.
were hiding behind the cross, right? Um,
So did you find
I
out? Because to me, like, even when I say faith or being a Christian, I think of
mhm.
it doesn't necessarily mean that you're a weak person you're trying to hide. So
Oh, I don't think so either.
yeah. So
I'm just letting you know how it was in there.
so what you're saying is people use that as kind of like a crutch. In other words, they
Oh
used it
yeah, oh
to,
absolutely.
you know.
Most of them. Like as a matter of fact, that was kind of like the joke or the running joke was like, oh, if someone's a Christian, he must be a child molester because he's
Wow.
hiding in the chapel. He's hiding behind the Bible. So why
Wow.
doesn't this guy want to get found out or whatever? There must be something wrong with him. You
Wow.
know, I was about 5 years into my sentence, there was this lifer that I became friends with. That was he was the chaplain for the Catholic for the uh, or he was, excuse me, he was the clerk for the Catholic chaplain, and he was going into some other line of work. He wanted to get into a vocation in there, and he had asked me because I grew up Catholic, and when I started like doing my own thing about halfway through. And for any of you that want to know how I kind of got out of being in the politics uh, and started turning my life around, there's a story on my blog called De Profundis, and that explains it. Like I tell the story of what happened and what went down. Um, but he asked me, "Hey, would you take over this spot?" Because I would go in there and I grew up Catholic. So I would go in there and I would have these conversations with dude because I knew dude was cool and I knew he wasn't afraid. Like I knew he wasn't one of those guys that was hiding behind the Bible, I mean, uh and so he asked me, would I do it? And I was extremely reluctant at first. I was like, oh, no, 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 no. I can't work in here, man, because I knew how it was, and I was like, no, I don't want people, whichever. But after a few conversations, and then plus the fact that I was running my own program by that time anyway, I said, you know what? It'd be a good job. And there were kind of some little fringe benefits that went along with it. So I was like, okay, yeah, I'll do it. Um, but I saw I was able to see um, just how many were just really hiding behind that. I mean, there were Protestant clerks, there were Muslim clerks, there were these different and there would always be something that came up. Like I remember there was this one, and so I don't mean to keep plugging this, but it's just that I've written about it. So there's also two stories on my blog. One's Chapel 1 and the other's Chapel 2. It's kind of like a one starts and then the other continues to where I talk about things that happened in the chapel. And there was like a lot of shenanigans that happened in there, and there was a lot of like weirdo people that ended up in there. And while I always took it as like someone that was devout in their faith was someone to be admired, it just that wasn't the case in there. It was like the more devout they were, like the more that somebody thought there was something wrong with them, like they were hiding something,
Why
you
why
know,
why do you think that is though?
because it was true
It
most of
was
the time.
true? Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And I hate to be, I hate to put it that bluntly, or to put, but a lot of the times, like for example, there was this one guy. He was one of the Protestant clerks, And he I mean, the chaplain would let this guy give sermons. He would let him, I mean, he was just devout. He was leading all the Bible studies. He was doing all the different services. He was just this and that and whatever. I mean, really super, super devout guy. And then it turns out that like he was in there for child molestation and incest.
Okay.
And it's just like, son of a bitch, man. You know, like, and he wasn't the only case by far. Like, I used to have guys that would come into my office, right? And because we had a phone in there that went to the support office. So it's not like I could just call out to wherever. It was like a phone, and the support office is like where the captain, the lieutenant, the sergeant, that's like their office, right? And they have clerks in there as well. And when I would pick up the phone, it would just ring to there. And the whole reason that phone uh, was in there was like in case there was some kind of emergency in the chapel, like someone could pick it up and go, hey, we need help in here or something. But I would get people that would like try and come into my office and be like, hey, do, do you think you could call the support office because I'm running into some real problems right now, and I need to go. I need to go to a different yard or whatever. And I'd be like, get out, get out. I'm not even kidding. Get out. And the reason for that is not to mention that like I knew what it was when they'd come and do that. But let's say that for some reason I found it in my heart to help a child molester. All right, that I went, yeah, sure, buddy, I'll keep you from getting murdered. Let me call them right now and you can come and get out, right? Well, by me helping that guy, that makes me as bad as that guy.
Hmm.
So like me like picking up that phone and going, yeah, I'll get you out of getting stabbed or getting your throat cut or whatever. Here, let me help you out real quick. Anyone else is going to look at that as, oh, he's helping them, and me helping him makes me on par with him. So it was like, even if I wanted to help him, no, because
Right.
I'm looking out for my own self too, you know. So
I mean,
and
realistically, isn't prison life really your number one? You're looking for number one, period.
sure,
I mean,
sure, absolutely,
there is no
absolutely,
other way,
right, correct,
you
yeah.
know? And that's going to be real
So
hard. I would imagine that's hard for a lot of people to handle, when you're used to being around, that's why you got to join a group of people. But still, even a group of people, it sounds like in prison, you still got to be for number one, period.
oh yeah, yeah, because even though there's that whole, like the groups and the cliques or whatever, your race and all that, at the end of the day, it's all about number one. Like
Hmm.
none of those guys are going to do any time for you.
Hmm.
None of the, I mean, uh, they're not going to serve your sentence or pay your debts or do anything like that. No, that's all you. So yeah, most definitely.
Yeah, I want to reach out to the chat here. We got a few people in the chat. Anybody have any
Okay.
questions? Go ahead and drop them in the live chat. And I'm going to drop a live StreamYard link in the chat also. So if somebody wants to come on and ask Bobby some questions, you are sure welcome to do that. So I'm going to drop that in there
I
right
see
now.
one here. I see one here from Runaway Train. I'm looking at it says pedos don't last long in prison in the first place. Correct? That is correct. I'm sure the other inmates are just dissing Christians only because if one was a real pedo in prison, he'd be dead pretty quick. Well, like I was saying earlier, sometimes they manage to slip through the cracks. So sometimes either they got their hands on some fake paperwork or they had a good story or something to where they weren't immediately discovered. And and if that's the case, maybe they could skate. Like I'll give you an example. Um, and I can't remember which story I wrote this in, but this is also one of the stories on my blog. there was this guy that everybody called Sticky Buns. Okay, he was a homosexual white guy, um, and the sticky bun is, or a honey bun
Hmm.
is like you know what a honey bun is, right? They're like kind of like a glazed kind of cinnamon bun type thing, right? Well, it's a popular item on commissary to use as currency, right? Well, everybody called this guy Sticky Buns because he was gay, but he was like a prostitute gay, so like he'd sell his ass for commissary, right? And and people just made fun of him, you know, whichever, like nobody wanted nothing to do with him, and he eventually paroles, and that's it, right? Well, one day about, I don't know, probably 4 or 5 months after this guy left, we're watching that show To Catch a Predator. Remember that with Chris Hansen?
Oh yeah.
To where like they'd have
Oh yeah.
so for those of you that don't know, essentially what it is they'd have these guys that were thinking they were talking to like 13-year-old girls or whatever, but really they were talking to cops, and they'd be like, yeah, let's meet up, and they'd have hidden cameras or whatever, and
That was
the
a
cops
great
would come in.
show. Great show.
Yeah, man. And the cops would come in, and then Chris Hansen, or the guy had come in, and then Chris Hansen would come out and be like, hey, I need to talk to you. And he'd like interview him. And then as soon as the guy like decided, hey, fuck this, and he'd try and leave, like a
Yeah, he'd
million
tell the
cops.
guy, just sit down and relax for a second.
Yeah, yeah, right. And, yeah. So anyways, we're watching that show, and and then like they're narrating the next scene, right? I think this headphone's about to die here, in which case I'll go to the audio on the laptop here. But we're watching this show, and then the narration comes in, and they're like, and our next perp was just recently released from prison for rape, and everybody's like, oh, you know, and then all of a sudden, here comes Sticky Buns bebopping along, and I remember we're in the day room and we're watching this on TV, and you could just hear the collective gasp from everybody there. They're just like, oh, that motherfucker, oh, and that's because he had gotten away with it, like for whatever reason, like his paperwork wasn't checked right or right, but nobody knew he was there for rape, because if they did, they would have fucking murdered him, or at least, you know, maimed him somehow, you know. So that's what I mean when I say like not everybody gets it. Sometimes people slip through the cracks, or for whatever reason, you know, and they get away with it. But yeah, he thought he was showing up at a place in Riverside to see like a 13-year-old girl or something like that. And
It's funny because Timbo makes a comment here, and I kind of remember that this one where Chris Hansen tells him to sit down, and the guy actually started eating something. So I think they had cookies on the table or something. So
yeah, yeah.
um,
Yeah, that's what he'd tell him. He'd tell, like when he'd come in, you know, because they'd be standing or whatever. Take a seat. Yeah, yeah.
um,
That would.
let's go down some questions real quick here. Anthony Velasquez, in
Okay.
fact, Anthony Velasquez is in California. He's
Okay.
in Pasadena. Is that close to you?
Okay, not too far. Yeah, I'm in Long Beach, so yeah, Pasadena's not that far.
Okay. Yeah. Anthony would be a great guy for you to have some of those IPAs with. He's a buddy of
Oh,
mine.
okay, cool.
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Good,
Cool.
good guy. Good guy for sure. So
Excellent.
Anthony Velasquez, reach out to Bobby Dino through his through BobbyDino.com, through his email. And
Yeah, you can do it there too. Yeah.
Yeah. You
Yeah,
guys
for
are
sure.
close by, but you'll love Anthony. Anthony's been on the show quite frequently, and we did a full night of Anthony Velasquez one night, so it was a good time.
Oh, cool.
Yep.
Cool,
So,
man.
and then, so you want to answer his question real quick?
Yeah, let me. Okay. What I yeah. So originally, it was an assault with a great bodily injury, and then while I was in there, I picked up an institutional possession of marijuana, and that's what created the whole 10-year sentence. I'm gonna stop my camera real quick too, so I can grab this charger real fast, but I can still hear you guys if you want to keep going.
Okay. Wayne Hicks says, what kind of prison were you in, federal or state? And we know that.
State, California State.
Okay.
Yeah, it was. And if we're going to go a little deeper than that, go which California state prisons? I started at Wasco and then finished up at Avenal.
Okay. And Timbo asked, did any guards make your sentence more effed up?
Well, yeah, the guard that lied on the stand on me certainly did. There were, and it was funny too because that guard did that, and then I don't know, probably about a couple weeks later, he was working my yard, like as one of the yard cops, and I was working out on the yard, and he came up to me. I see this guy coming up, and I'm just like, motherfucker, man, because it's not like you can just walk away from them or just whatever. I mean, they're the cops. They'll just follow you. They'll just say, hey, come here, and you got to come here. You know, like that's just what it is, right? And he comes up and he goes, hey, no hard feelings, huh? And I got another 6 years off of,
Off of no hard feelings.
That sentence, right? So, yeah, there were some hard feelings, but a lot of the times I just avoided situations that would kind of reap me some bad benefits. For example, like I had guards ask me to beat up inmates that they didn't like. Like, they'd call me down, to the podium or come by my thing. They'd be like, hey, Dino, so, such and such is a piece of shit. And, if you were to beat his ass, we'd give you a radio or we'd give you some tobacco, and, I just be, I don't do the cops' dirty work. You know what I mean? So I just be like, no, I'm good, man. Thanks anyway.
Dwayne Hicks,
like,
asked, how many inmates were there in your prison?
Oh, well, Avenal, like as far as inmate population, had the largest population in the state. So I think at one time, because there was a lot of overcrowding while I was in there too. So at one time, I think it was up to around 7,000 or 7,500 inmates. Now that's
wow. I had no idea that many.
But that's in the entire prison. So like the prison had 6 yards, right? So it would be spread out over those 6 yards. So each yard that would have about 1,300 people or something like that.
Wow,
but keep in mind that the housing units only had about 300 per. So, if there were 4 housing units on the yard, like then, there were still only 300 people. But even that was overcrowded. Like it was supposed to be less than that. But yeah, that one, Avenal had the most out of any. I don't know if it's still like that, but that's how it was when I was there.
We got another question here. Or the pedos are out of GP, general population.
Yeah, so we were kind of talking about that earlier. They tend to be, like, I mean, the ones that have any idea of self-preservation tend to be, but sometimes for some reason or another they'd like try and stay in Gen Pop, and they almost always got found out. There very few times someone would, like I said, they'd slip through the cracks or something, but most of the time, did this turn on? Can you hear me still?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, good. They'd get found out, and it always mystified me on why they'd try and hide out, but sometimes they would, but generally speaking, yeah, they'd go what most people know as PC, protective custody. Although, like I said earlier, in California prisons, they changed that to SNY, which was special needs yard, but it's the same shit.
Okay. So anybody else have any questions, or you want to come on and talk with Bobby Dino, you're welcome to come on. I pinned the StreamYard link to the top of the chat. But Bobby, what I want you to do, in fact, I can hear you. I'm going to take a quick bathroom break, but I want you to talk to a guy who's going through some trouble now. Is making the bad choices in life. Okay. So you can touch this guy. You can reach out to this guy now and say, hey, again, learn, a smart man learns from his mistakes. A wise man learns from others' mistakes. So
Sure.
talk to this guy and say, hey, you're going down a bad road, and those choices are going to have consequences, and you have to be accountable. So give a talk to this guy, whether it's a younger guy, an older guy that's making the bad choices now. And a lot of times, we make choices in life. We think it's the best choice. We're trying to survive, or we do it for money, or we do it for a woman. There's a lot of different reasons.
Yeah.
People do bad things, but in their mind at that point, it's not always a bad thing. Your choices have consequences. So expand on that for somebody who's watching right now.
Sure. And I'm just going to answer Dwayne's question here real quick before I do it. It says, are there any inmates that you wouldn't mind keeping in touch with or hang out with out of prison? There were 3 out of 10 years. There were 3. One was a guy that was my bunkie who was I was born and raised in Orange County out here, and he was a fellow homeboy from Orange County. Someone that actually he became my bunkmate or bunkie. His sister's boyfriend started molesting his niece. So when he found out that was going on, he went over there and beat the fuck out of the dude on his own front lawn. And I mean, as righteous as that sounds, to the letter of the law, it's still illegal, So he ended up getting 5 years for that. And I kind of, he's on the smaller side. So I kind of like looked out for him while I was in there, made sure nobody fucked around with him or nothing. And we kept in touch. He owns a contracting business, got married. I went to his wedding. I mean, we aren't like tight or anything. I haven't talked to the guy in probably a good year or two, but we did keep in touch. And then the 2 others were lifers. Both of them ended up getting out after 20 something years. And one I haven't talked with in a while. He lives in Northern California, but was someone that I used to get a lot of advice from when I was in there. And then the other one I just saw, I don't know, last month, I think. He lives in Venice Beach, and I mean, but that was it. A lot of these people I wouldn't want living next door to me. That was kind of my metric, was like, would I want this guy being my neighbor? And if the answer was no, then I didn't want nothing to do with him, so out of all those thousands of people that kind of went through my life, there was 3 that I kept in touch with afterwards. So yeah.
Another quick question here. He went over this earlier. Actually, it started out with 5 years. You want to go ahead and tell that real quick?
Yeah. So on the total of my combined sentences, because there were 2. I had one that was my committing offense that committed me to prison, and then I picked up one while I was inside there. It came to a total of 11 years, and out of 11 years, it was like I ended up doing 9 years and about 9.5 months. So just shy of 10 years.
All right.
Excuse me, just 1 sec. And I'm still listening. I just gotta see what my daughter wants really quick. So excuse me. Oh, okay. Never mind. That wasn't my daughter. That was my wife.
All
Okay.
right. Well, this
Uh,
is it. This is it real quick. And Michael Foster is
yeah.
watching also. Michael Foster, if you want to jump on and talk with Bobby Dino, that would be awesome. Um, but let's do Scared Straight YouTube style. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So talk
So,
to that
so
guy that is taking the wrong path right now.
yeah. So here's what I would say there to whether you're a young guy, you're an old guy, um, you come from money, you come from nothing, whatever the case may be. Okay, there's all different types of reasons why we can justify something in our head. Nobody can lie to us like we can lie to ourselves. Okay, straight up. And we can make any type of wrong if we try halfway hard, we can justify it somehow. And the number one thing that I would say is instead of looking at the immediate outcome, think a little bit farther, right? You invest in money, you invest in stocks, you invest in the, think about it like investing in your life, right? Long-term investment, right? So what's going to happen in the long term? How far is it going to go out? Because if you continue to lie to yourself and not take any responsibility for who you are or what you're doing, the only thing that's going to come into your life is just a world of hurt. Okay. Now, you may think that you're in a spot to where it's hopeless, right? There's no hope. You won't be able to do it. You won't, there's no answers. The only thing that I can answer to that, because I can't speak to someone's particular situation, only you know what you're really going through. But Winston Churchill has this, it's actually probably one of my favorite quotes of all time. And he said, when you're going through hell, keep going, right? And you can't let yourself take a way out that's anything less than honorable and, for lack of a better term, legal, right? Because as much as the easy thing, nobody's going to find out, nobody's going to do this. That old adage applies. The only way a secret can be kept between two people is if one of them's dead. And anything that you're going to put out there or that you're going to do, it is going to come to light. Anything that is going to be breaking the law, it will come back around. And you don't want to catch yourself in that situation, because whatever you were trying to do to make that quick fix or whatever, when you're doing years inside, the math doesn't equate. Okay, you're just condemning yourself to something that's much more worse. Now, here's what I can say is whatever you put your mind to within reason, okay, there's a good chance that you can pull it off. There's a good chance that you can make it. Now, I say within reason because if you've got a felony on your record, chances are you're not going to be president of the United States. All right, that's just within reason. If you've never completed high school, you're probably not going to be an astronaut. Okay, that's just within reason. Okay, but if it's something to where it is attainable, go for that. Anything that you got to put in a little bit of work for, it's going to be worth it in the long run. Okay. And there's all types of things, even if you got a record. Okay. If you don't have a record, oh man, God bless you. Good for you. The world's your oyster. But even if you've got a record, there's all types of things that you can apply yourself towards that can lead to a good life, right? But you have to be honest with yourself and with, like we were talking about earlier, those honest self assessments. You have to be honest with yourself and with what the trajectory where your life is headed, right? Uh, and really ask yourself, like, is this it? Is this going to work out? Is this something that's good for me? Is this something that's good for my family? Is this something that, is going to keep me out of trouble? Is it, because if those answers are no, there is no one will find out. Oh, it's only this, it's only that. You're going to end up getting screwed. And I've just seen it so many times, so many times. The whole reason why I got into the writing, the web, the blog and the website and all that was just for this, was just for you, just for the person that maybe, had either already been in or someone who was maybe on the way to about to go in. I promise you, it's not a lifestyle you want to lead, but even if you think your situation is hopeless, it's not. There's something. There's something. And if you're one of those people right now to where you're like, man, my life isn't worth a shit, or man, I'm going nowhere, or I think I might mess up and go inside, look, Bobby@BobbyDino.com. Shoot me an email. Shoot me an email. Let put in there that you saw me on Tony's show, and that you wanted to talk. I'll answer you. Okay. And we can talk particulars. On the flip side of that, if you're just going to shoot me an email and just say, hey, how you doing? Like, I won't answer that email. Right. Like I get these emails sometimes where people just go, hi. And I'm like, fuck, hi, what is this? Like, but I mean, if you're seriously in a spot, and you think like that might be you, uh, it's really hard to talk generalities because there's so many different, roads and different circumstances that people are going through that are different maybe from my own or whatever. But if that's you, uh, shoot me an email. If you follow me on Twitter, you can even DM me on Twitter, and we'll talk. Uh, um, just remember, and this isn't just with me. This is with anyone. If I'm going to take my time to respond or whatever like that, let's respect each other's time and not be weird about it, because that's another thing too. Is sometimes people don't respect the fact that I actually have a life and work and do all
Mhm.
that, and then get mad when they've I haven't responded to them for the 47th time, and it's like, I got other stuff to do too, bud. So, but I mean, if it's something, feel free to reach out.
Yeah, that's a good offer. It is, and I tell people the same way. I've had a lot of people that have reached out to me on my Twitter and Instagram, and through
Hmm.
email too, just to.
Yeah.
I'm not somebody that you're somebody that could probably give better advice on things about of this nature. Where me, um, I tell people I don't give advice. I give support. That's what I do, and that's why this
Yeah.
channel is here and it's morphing to what it's morphing into is more of a support system.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of guys out there, a lot of men and women that need somebody. Sometimes they just need somebody to talk to,
Yeah.
and and
Yeah.
that's more important. It's you're not. To me, when a man reaches out, that's a big deal. When somebody reaches out
Yeah.
to you and has a legitimate issue, sometimes they just want to be heard, and that's important. That's the part of the manosphere where I'm really big on. That is that being able to just somebody to talk to. You know,
Yeah. For
I'm
sure.
not big on advice. But a lot of times people just they need to be heard. And
Hmm.
especially men nowadays, they need to be heard. And whether they're talking, they might be talking to somebody in their life that might be a friend is pushing them the wrong way. But
Hmm.
speaking to somebody who's on a platform like I am, or a platform like you're on, that's a, that
Hmm.
that just might set them in a better direction. So that's kind of
Yeah.
I'm here for support. So you
No,
know,
that's good, man. And that's, there's all different types of ways that people can be helped, and sometimes it is just that ear,
yeah,
someone to dump to. you know.
Are you familiar?
I'm just gonna.
You're familiar with Michael
Go.
Foster from Twitter?
I'm not sure. Does he go by Michael Foster on Twitter?
Yep. Yep.
I don't know. I don't know. And please don't take that the wrong way for those of you who are watching. It's like going through the the followers list, like it's impossible. I wouldn't have enough time in it. I know that sounds bad, but it's like sometimes, like I'll just miss people that are following, and a lot of the ways, like it, like I would say probably a good 70 or 80% of the accounts that I follow back have less than 1,000 followers. They do. But the only reason that I even know that they're there, yeah, he's deeply offended. My bad, Mike. No, the only way I know they're there is through like the interaction. Like they'll comment on the stuff, or I'll see the comments, and then it's like, okay, because I don't care about like how many followers somebody has. I really don't. But if I haven't,
he comes on frequently. He's a family man. He's a well-known pastor. He has It's Good to Be a Man. He has 7
cool.
children. He spoke at
Oh, wow, good for
21.
him.
Yep. And
Okay.
yep, he's a big part of the manosphere. He's just
Okay, cool.
yeah.
Well,
So,
Michael, if I don't know if we follow, I don't think I follow you. I don't know if you follow me, but okay, we'll see there. Now I'm offended, Mike. Okay, I gotta go, Tony. I'm sitting. No, I'm just kidding. No, seriously though. If we somehow connect on there, or I'll look him up. I'll give him a follow for sure.
yeah. Good
Sure.
guy. Good guy.
Yeah.
And Michael Foster, if you want to jump on and chat a little, that's up to you. We're not going to go that much longer here tonight, for sure. I've got to get up early tomorrow. So, but
same. I gotta. I just want to answer because I think I missed. Hold on, I'm scrolling through right here. Okay, not that one. I saw that one, but hold on. Okay, Vic Bear said, "Did I grew up on OC? Yes, I did. You know a homeboy from Orange County named Frank? I know a few of them from Orange County named Frank. From Westminster, I don't know. Maybe, but like I don't know. And I think I met you at the house. Maybe, I don't know, Vic. Maybe, hope I wasn't a jerk when we did meet. Could be though. Okay, and let me see. Son of X-Con here. Okay, and then any thoughts on Wes Watson? That's the one you just put up, or you just put up. Okay, any thoughts on Wes Watson? Also a 10-year former inmate as well. Great motivator teacher. Oh, okay. Yeah, someone told me to check him out. God, I want to say it was Jim Staggs. I want to say was the one that might have turned me on to him. And I don't know that. I think I watched like 1 or 2 videos. I don't really know like his backstory really, but like hey man, he's out there. If he's out there helping people and like making the best out of former experiences and all the power to him. Like, good for him. Yeah.
well, I'm going to introduce you to Michael Foster.
Hey, Mike.
What's up, Bobby? Yeah, I've seen your account. Yeah, it's good stuff, man. I caught on that.
Oh, cool.
I don't know when it was. I caught on that you were a Christian. Something you said. Am I wrong?
Yeah, I grew up. I grew up in the church, and then was even while I was in there for about 4 years, I was a chaplain's clerk. So I grew up with that. Grew up in the private school. Well, not my whole life, but I spent a few years in private schools and all that stuff as well too. So
no, I dig your feed. It's real red pill stuff. It's not just the same warmed over stuff that we hear over and over again that sells good Gumroad courses, but maybe don't actually help people.
Thank you, man. No, I'll have to. I'll have to, because, like I said, I just don't see all of the accounts going through. But is it Michael Foster on there as well?
This is Foster. I've got 12,000 people following me, and I get probably, I don't know. I've got like, I don't know how many unanswered messages and DMs right now. I can't imagine what it happens when you get higher and higher. It's like the amount of interaction you get is, and some of them are like stupid, like you say, like, "Hey, what's up, man? How you been?" And you're like, what?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
but then other ones are like, "Look, dude, my wife left me. My parents hate me." They're like, their whole heart comes out, and you're like, "Well, what the crap? What do I do to this? Like, do I ignore this? Like, this guy's like, it's a cry for help." You know what I mean? It's like, but you realize that so many guys are just alone and have no one to open up to. And like, they follow you on Twitter, and for some reason they're like, this is the guy that I can be real with. And you're like, man, I don't know who you think I am, but I'm not who you think I am, but I'll try my best. So
cool, man. It's just Foster on there, like at Foster, or
this is Foster. I don't care if you follow me or not, just to be clear. But
well, no, I'll
it is the best. It is the most unrated Twitter account on Twitter, though. So, but
it is good, Michael Paul. Your Twitter is pretty darn good. So is Dino's. I mean, you guys need to. You
were ranting against someone a couple weeks ago, and I was laughing the whole. Like, I read it. I can't remember. You're calling someone out. You're calling out some trend. I was like, yeah, that's nice. That's good to see a larger account just saying that's BS. That's so stupid.
What that's been one of my big things. Like not so much lately, but to where I've just been not caring about doing it is because there's so much of this back scratching and you don't get real authenticity anymore because everyone's afraid about offending the guy that might like lose some followers, and it's like, what kind of life to live is that? Like, I'd rather just like say what I feel to be true. So I went through that, and it may not be the most politically correct thing to do, but oh well.
You're still free though, right? you're not enslaved to it. That's the thing. So some of my Twitter followers that I know in person they have like, I don't know, like 200 people. And these are multi-millionaire successful because of my day job. I run in some pretty high level circles, and these guys are like so legit. And then like, you know what I mean? So that's what a lot of people, I ask like, who has the best marriage that you should emulate on Twitter? And people throw all these names out. And I was like, how do you know that? I mean, all you follow is their tweets and their pictures, man. Like, you don't know the reality of their life. You know, my point wasn't that they're all frauds. You just don't know, right? Like, because some of them are, but it is amazing. Yeah.
That was one of the things that was really disenchanting about like when I got when I started meeting like so many different people from the social media scene. Was a very small percentage of them were actually who they said they were. The rest of them just were not, and that was, I mean, that's life, I guess, in general, but still it was kind of a bummer to see these people with like these huge audiences and all that. And it's like, wow, man, you've got so many people like spending money on you because they think you're something that you were almost the exact opposite of.
Jack Donovan. And I talked to Jack Donovan last fall down at 21 Convention by the poolside. And I asked him if he had read Bronze Age Mindset, because I just read it. It was by the guy, Bronze Age Pervert guy. It was a really fascinating book. And I asked Jack if he had read it, and Jack said he wouldn't read it because it was written by a pseudonym. And he wasn't saying that the guy was fake or not. He was just saying you can't know. And he was talking about how so many guys have come through the manosphere that basically have copywriter, abilities. They're really good writers. They're really good at synthesizing ideas and whatever. But Jack, it's clear to me that Jack was like on a quest for authentic manhood, and he was just kind of sick of these guys that would come on and talk about all these girls that they're hooking up with, and you meet them in person, and you're like, no, I don't think that happened. So, and it was really good. It was like a reminder because I move in. I'm a pastor. I've been around I know a lot of celebrity pastors. I've been in a lot of pastors' house when I was a youth pastor many years ago, and to see to see the reality of these people's lives, you're like, yikes, man. You know,
Yeah.
I don't want to be like you. You know, I thought I did, but
Yeah.
now that I see the real thing, I don't want to be like you. So anyway, I appreciate your willingness.
Yeah.
Good stuff, man.
Oh,
Yeah,
no, I
mean,
appreciate that.
That whole thing you guys were just talking about is, you know, me being involved in 21 and doing what I do there. There's been guys to where when I met them, there was guys that I met that were bigger than life, and I could tell they were what they said they were.
Yeah.
And I was impressed. And then there were some guys who I was like, wow, this is a major disappointment. This is not what I expected. And it was because seeing somebody online and then meeting them in real life, you get that real life experience, you know, about something, how you interact with them. That's real important. It's important to me. I'm not going to name any names, of course, right now, but there's people that I was completely disappointed. And it was the setting.
I'll name some names.
Nice. That's what people do on Tony's stream.
But it was the setting that we're in. I mean, you know, I guess it's no secret that I mean, I was there when Bobby Dino backed somebody down in a big way at 21, and he had every right to do that. And
I guess, yeah.
It was totally legit, and I don't know if I want to get into particulars unless Bobby wants to either. But
I mean, you can't. I mean, you can if you want. It's I haven't really made it a secret, but I mean, keep in mind though, like that. There was a drunk person involved, and the person that I kind of had to check, for lack of a better term, he was trying to egg this drunk person on.
I'm going to say, let me just say something. I was there. I was not drinking, and that was, you can only be pushed so far. Michael Foster, if you were in that situation,
I actually think I know this story. Someone told me. I'm pretty certain I know what this is all about, actually. And
it was exhilarating to be there amongst this whatever happened, and it was a powerful moment. And I watched a man step up, and I watched a man back down in a big way. In a big way.
So essentially, here I'll just do this quick so that it's, you know, there's no question about it. So when I showed up at 21 Con, Jack Murphy, who's a pretty big guy. Oh yeah, that'll work a little bit better. I got the light now. Jack Murphy, who's a pretty big dude. He's at least my height and probably a little heavier. He had this prima donna complex right off the bat. Like he was constantly kind of just like looking down his nose at me. And I was actually excited to meet him because I was like, oh, okay. You know, I've seen some of what this guy's talking about and stuff like that. And he seemed like he was legit, you know, and, you know, but when I met him, it was like, he wouldn't talk to me directly. It was just, I don't know what it was, man, but I was just feeling the energy off of him that was just kind of off. And so one night, Zach Small and about a dozen other people were down by the pool, and I had come down there, and now I came up behind Zach and I shook his chair a little bit. Now I did it just, you know, for fun, like just, you know, like, hey, you know, and it wasn't like I was trying to do anything crazy. It was just like, I'm here, you know. But what I didn't know was that Zach was totally just drunk out of his mind.
He was passed out on.
Yeah. So when I shook his chair, he fell out of it, and I was just like, oh, like I felt totally bad, you know. I was like, oh no, and not to mention when I did it, like everybody in the circle was just like, oh, like I just came up and slapped him in the head or something like that, right? You know, so I was like, oh, no, man. I immediately started apologizing. Dude, I didn't mean to do that. I'm trying to help him up. And I remember he was sitting like on his butt, and he was like, do we need to fight right now? And I'm like, no, man, no, it's nothing like that. It was a total accident. You know, I'm sorry. I mean, I was profusely apologizing to dude because I did not try and do that at all.
Well, it wasn't. Now let me get this straight. It wasn't like you came up behind him. I was sitting right to the left. I couldn't have been any closer. It wasn't like you came up and grabbed your chair and pulled it out from underneath him. He just came up and said, Zach. And, you know, when somebody's shit-faced, he moved forward and he fell on his ass. And, of course, it was more – I mean, let's get the reality is he was more embarrassed at what he did to himself than anything else. And –
because I didn't realize he was drunk like that at all. Like I came up behind the guy, you know, like I didn't –
Yeah, there was no malice, no intent. There was nothing like that. I mean, I was there. And then you can go on. You can finish the story because
well no, so I get Zach back in his chair and he's talked down or whatever. And then all of a sudden Jack Murphy goes, I wouldn't take that shit. And I just kind of ignored it and he goes, I wouldn't take that shit. Nope. And I ignored it again and then he said it a third time. He goes, nope. I wouldn't take that shit. So then I just stood up on the third one and said, what the fuck you want to do then? What do you want to do, man? You want to roll around on the ground right now? You want to sling them? Is that what you want to do? Let's go. And he was just like, and then it was all, oh, no, man. No, it ain't like that, man. Oh, I've read your work. I like it so much. No, bro. No, it ain't. You know, and it was just like, okay, just, you know. But it was one of those things to where he was playing that tough guy until, you know, the card got pulled and then he wasn't so tough anymore. But that's you know, and I never told that story publicly. Like I just recently tweeted something about it for the first time, but like this is the first time I've ever told it like on video from my mouth in a public forum or anything like
Tony
that.
Bruno is the Oprah of the manosphere. This is where people come to get their stories out.
I guess so, man. I guess I guess that's what's happening. No, but I mean, there's, you know, I don't have nothing to worry about because it's the truth, you know, more than anything else. So that's,
I mean,
like Tony said, he was there.
I can verify it. And there was other people. I think AJ Cortez was there. There was quite a few people around at that time, but it was
Anthony Johnson was sitting right next to me. I remember that because
he was right on the other side. Yeah, I mean, it was
because right about 5 minutes. About 5 minutes later, it just he leans over towards me, you know, like, and he goes, "Hey man, are you having like a prison flashback right now?" And I'm like, "No, man, no, it's all good, man. Everything's." I remember just kind of like, "Oh my god, no, nothing like that."
Well,
you know, but
let me tell you, the thing about it to me is that the reason I remember that, of course, because it was a situation where I saw two men. I saw one man who, how do I put this? Who just didn't handle his business. Because I know that's one of your things. And Jack didn't handle his business. He opened his mouth and he got what he had coming to him. And I think he would have got a whole lot more at that point. And, point, I was okay with it. I saw a lot of people move back. I didn't move back. I just kind of sat there and like, if this is going to happen, it's just one of those things that to me, when men have that confrontation like that, either one's going to back down and one's going to come forward, or they're both going to they're going to battle it out. And either way, it was going to be good with me. But do I think that I know that Bobby did nothing out of malice or anything to upset. He was a perfect gentleman. He handled the situation really well until he didn't. But didn't have to. Let's just put it like that.
Yeah, and the only reason why I came at Jack like that was the fact that I had just calmed Hunter down. I mean, or excuse me, Zach down. I mean, he asked me, he was like, "Do we have to fight now?" And I was like, "No, you know." And I had just calmed the dude down, right? And then I've got this guy going, oh, I wouldn't take that. Oh, I'd do something. I wouldn't take that. You know, and
Stirring
it
the
was like
drama
he was
back up.
pumping the dude
Yeah,
up.
yeah,
And
exactly.
so the only reason why I came all hard at Jack like that was to shut his mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Was to, you know, like just put the kibosh on it. You know, it wasn't because, you know, oh, I've been wanting to fight this guy since I got here or something like that. You know, I mean, I'm not going to lie. I was kind of disappointed in how he was acting, but you know, it was just the fact that I just calmed something that could have been a situation, especially with a guy that's just like, Hunter was, or Zach was just, he was shit faced. I mean, it was just, he was really drunk, you know, so it's like, it's hard enough calming a situation sometimes with sober people, but when you've got somebody that's like that inebriated, you know, it was like, okay, cool, he's all right, so that it wasn't it wasn't something that was just like coming off the cuff, like I had no reason for it, or like I didn't like the guy or something. It was because I was trying to keep that situation calm as well, you know, which is
Yeah, I mean, you were
reading the
totally
table.
legit. You were legit in every move you made. I watched you. You did apologize. I didn't think you needed to apologize to Zach, to be honest with you, because you didn't do anything. But you took the higher road, and you're like, hey, man, you know, this is, you know, and again, I'm sitting there watching it. It wasn't, you didn't do anything to, you know,
Yeah.
it was the alcohol fueled people that were there that made the situation a little bit tense, is what it was.
I've been to the
Right.
very calm 21 convention, apparently. The year I went was super chill. I don't know about any of this drama. So
Yeah. Well, you know, Zach's been he's been sober now, which
about a year.
and yeah, and not like I mean this in the most respectful way possible. That's probably the best thing for him, because when I was there, it was like he was drinking until like 6 or 7 in the morning and sleeping out on the chase lounges by the pool. Like he wasn't even going back to his room. He was just, I mean, and that's not how you want to be.
Yeah.
You know, you don't want to be that far gone every night. And then like, you know, you're sleeping till 7 or staying up until 7 or 8 and then giving a speech at 9. Like that's
No, he's conquered that demon pretty well. That's a good thing for him. He's gone a good direction and focusing on his family.
And he and I just recently spoke through some DMs, you know, and I told him like I was really proud of him for that, you know, that he recognized something and handled it, you know, and I let him know. I said, hey man, I'm proud of you for doing what you did, you know.
Yeah, that was quite an evening. Although, you know, I'll just throw this out there. I did want to see you knock out Jack Murphy, just out of pure principle. It was for me. So.
Yeah, you know, I still don't like. I don't wish any ill will on anyone. You know, I try and get along with everybody. You know, actually, I don't even try it that hard. I just kind of do. You know, so it's you know, to each his own, and he's got his own thing going, and good for him. But that night, it like something had to happen because I didn't want it to.
I mean,
get any worse.
You know, it's just my personal opinion, but I have no idea why anybody would follow him or listen to him. So I'm just going to throw that out there. I mean, you know, that's just me. Just me. I have no clue why there's any attraction to what he does or what he says, and that's just me. I just, you know.
Jack brings in a diverse crowd, man. He does. He's got an interesting following and interesting contacts. I think I follow him on Twitter, and that's one reason I do.
I don't know him. That's all.
Yeah, that might be right. It might be. You meet people, and it definitely changes. Changes your opinion. No doubt about it.
That's the experiences that I've had, you know. And again, I don't like talking bad about anybody, but there are certain people that rub me the wrong way, and I just don't find he has anything to offer me at all in any way, shape, or form.
Well, at least you and Rolo are still tight, right?
Oh yeah. Bob, we chatted this morning. No,
that was
he wanted 10 watching right now. So
I think I look at the Manosphere and I look at take an event like 21. I'm looking at this year's lineup because I've been getting some crap online like how can you go and be associated with these people? And I'm like, well, I associate with all sorts of people. It doesn't mean I agree with their lifestyle choices or the things they do. I'm just going there as a Christian. Anthony says what I want to say, so I'm going to go there. I'll preach the gospel.
Yeah.
I won't edit my message down at all. But I look at our lineup this year, and to me, it seems like a much more mature. I'm watching guys slowly catch on to the grifters and slowly catch on to the real guys, or the guys that at least are benevolent, like not like maybe they charge fees to be a coach, but like they actually have their own content. They actually care about you. They're not just like it's not some refried thing they stole from somebody else and they just tell you truism. It does seem to me that that the golden age of the grifter is coming to an end. There's always suckers, right? So there's always going to be people that get suckered. I mean, that's like, it's amazing. What you always remember is that there's someone that really thought a Nigerian king was trying to give him $1 million. That's why those emails go out. It's just a numbers game, right?
Yeah. You're right. You're right.
It's a pure numbers game. And so when you get a world full of men that haven't had fathers, that are confused, they're looking for male guidance, they're an easy mark. But thankfully, there's getting enough content out there online that people, those guys aren't as easy as a mark as they once were, right? And so I do think things are trending in a more positive direction. At least I hope so. I think 21 seems to be moving increasingly towards more mature father-like guys that have families, guys that have business, guys that are anchored, guys that have like real-world experience beyond internet marketing. And again, not to hate on internet marketing. I'm not, I market in my day job. That's part of what I do. But, how many drop ship, Amazon FBA, copywriting gurus do we need, man? Lecturing me on, get rid of your 40-hour-a-week job. I guarantee that my 40-hour-a-week job makes me 1,000 times more stable than whatever little gig you got going on. Been there, done that, seen it.
And I can probably guarantee the same thing with mine. Like, I totally get where you're coming from. Yeah, I mean, being a pastor, there's that story that Jesus told with Lazarus, and Abraham's bosom, right? And when he finally gets down there, right, he tells Abraham to send
somebody back and warn him about this place.
Send them back and warn them. And they said, hey, they had all the prophets, they had all that, and if they're not going to believe them, they won't believe someone coming back from the dead either. And that's kind of like what I liken to when you try and tell people about, like, man, this is a grift, or man, this is a whichever, because you can tell people like, hey, this is scammy, or this is what, and like they'll just follow that much harder, or they'll just
100%
go with it,
right.
and to where it's like I've kind of just just if someone asks me a direct question about someone or something, I'll give them an answer. But I'm not gonna try and champion schooling everybody about all the online, shenanigans that are going on, because they won't listen anyway.
My answer is always like, well, I wouldn't do it. It's like it's like this one liner, like, no, I don't. It doesn't seem legit to me, and I might like recommend something else, right? But you're right. It's like, what they'll do is they've already committed to it and they want to argue. What they really came to you for was affirmation and confirmation.
Right.
And then the moment you don't give them that, if you write a sentence, they'll write a paragraph. If you write a paragraph, they'll write 2 paragraphs. There's no end to it. And then they've already made the mind up. It's like, look, hey, you're a grown man. You reap what you sow. If you want to do that, you want to do it. I'm just telling you that I've been around, seen some things. Doesn't seem legit to me. I wouldn't do it. But it's your money, it's your time.
And that's really like what it is. Like you hit the nail on the head there. Is a lot of people aren't looking for advice; they're looking for that confirmation.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
they'll say, hey, I was wondering your thoughts on this or that, or what do you think about this? And you tell them, and then, like you said, they'll come back with a book about why what they already believe is correct. And
Yep.
it's, it's like, okay, well, you already know what you want or what you believe. So what are we talking about now?
Exactly. I just had a guy that sent
Yeah.
me a message. He's like, what's your thoughts on divorce and remarriage? And I responded, all of them? What do you want me to say, man?
Yeah.
You want me to answer like,
Yeah.
how do I answer that question? So I just sent him a link
Well,
to a paper my denomination wrote on. And I was like, here, read this.
It's funny you say that, because when somebody, it took me a while to figure out why AJ Cortez says thoughts is not a question. And
AJ's hilarious on that sort of
and,
stuff.
and it took me like a while. It used to irritate me when he said that. In fact, I told him when he was on the stream, I didn't get it, but now I get it, because if you're going to ask somebody a question, a lot of times it's okay to say, "Hey, what's your thoughts on this?" But make the question specific. In other words, if you're going to ask the question. So when you generalize too much, it's like you can go down so many rabbit holes from a simple, like, what's your thoughts on this? So ask the question that you need to ask, and you'll get an answer that you either want or don't want.
It's like a very girly thing to do too. I can remember when I was in high school, these girls would call me up and they're like, "What are you up to?" And I was like, "I was trying to watch TV." "What are you doing right now?" "Well, I'm talking to you."
Yeah.
I was watching Cops. Now I'm talking to you. Well, what you been up to? Hey, I'll talk to you later. You know what I mean? It's just like, it's just like,
what do you want?
What do you want, man? You want to be friends? I don't, not right now. So that's exactly what it is. They're like, they're needy. They want you to like tell them they're doing good. They want you to affirm them. They want you to chat with them. I get it. Men really need that too. But it's like, this is not really the forum for this. And you get so many of those a day, I mean, I'm sure you do, Tony, because it's the nature of your streams are, I think, lead men to open up. And if you have any of that sort of stuff going on in your social media platform, the amount of outreach you get from people is pretty intense, Yeah,
I mean, I'm surprised on, a small channel like mine, on the people that message me on Twitter, Instagram over simple things. And like I say, I don't give advice, I give support, and to me that's important. One thing I always try to say too is that, in the manosphere, a lot of guys enter this like a space, whether it's here or bigger spaces, because they're hurt and they're in some sort of pain or some sort of trauma. But what I try to realize in my head is that pain that we might trivialize that somebody is going through, their pain is real. Okay, so their pain is real. It's their life. It's the only thing they're seeing right now. So somebody's pain is real. So when somebody reaches out to you, it is a big deal. But you have to realize that is their life. That's what they're seeing. Yeah. You might say, geez, why, just do this, or, just, forget about her, or do this. But right now, that's their focus. They're in this tunnel. They have this tunnel vision. And to me, that's real important, is drawing back a little and say, okay, this is this guy's world right now. This is this woman's world right now. And it is a big deal when somebody reaches out to you. You guys, I'm sure, get a ton more people than I do that reach out to you. So, and I'll give advice, my only advice to Michael Foster and Bobby Dino is that their pain is real. That's what they're seeing at this point in their life. And I think we've all been there, to where, and then we might look back at something we've gone through and said, oh God, why did I feel like that? Or how could I possibly feel like that? But it took you some time, and it maybe took you to reach out to somebody, and just talking is so important, and that's why I like to leave the stream open for anybody who wants to come on and just talk, just very simply, because that's and that's cool. One of the reasons why too I like a MGTOW Dictionary. I love his stream because he'll bring on, and I've had up to I've had the panel full on some nights here, where there's 10 people on, and we go till 1:30 in the morning. But everybody has a voice, and so everybody wants to be heard. It's not like I don't want to put that. They want to be heard. They just want to say what they have to say. And a lot of times that's what makes you feel better, is getting out to somebody where you can just say what you need to say. where a lot of guys can't go to their family or to their friends and say what they want to say, but they can come on a stream like this and just let it out. And to me, that's important. That's kind of where this channel is morphing to, is let's talk about the things that are real. Let's talk about, say what you have to say without any type of, you're not going to be put down. You're not going to be, you're not going to be kicked out of the club, let's say. Your voice is necessary. I think that's what we're missing in this world, is that sometimes people want to be heard, but I still have to look at it as their pain is real. What they're going through is real, regardless.
Oh, that's cool, man. That's cool that you have the insight like that, because people need that.
Yeah. It's important nowadays. You don't know what the other person is going through. You just don't know. And that's where, we did a whole stream about saving lives, on how that, to me, it's important when somebody's life is saved, but also that word, I think, throughout the manosphere has been kind of used up a bit.
Yeah, I'd say so. There's a certain person that anytime you question anything they do, you know how many men he's saved from suicide? And you're just like, no one knows, dude. No one knows. I'm not sure. I'm glad. Whatever. That doesn't mean that all these other things aren't issues. It's great. Whatever. Praise God.
Now, this is the only issue with that. And we dove deep into it.
That's so funny you say that, Mike, because I know exactly who you're talking about.
I'm sure you do. I mean, we all around. You're just like,
I've heard that so many times.
Anytime you level a critique, even if it's not like a nasty one, that's exactly what they say back. Oh, he saved me from killing myself. Well, good. Right. Good. What do you want me to say? Oh, well, you should have killed yourself? Yeah. No, I'm glad you didn't kill yourself. But what does that have to do with me critiquing somebody's aspects of somebody's thought process or whatever? It's not like
I made a certain distinction in that whole saving lives thing. Now, when you hear that, you automatically think, okay, yeah, are there guys that were pulled out of? I think it's Hold the Truth Hostage calls it a rope necklace and a wrist knife. Yeah, I think that's legit. But there's also saving a life could mean a detour in your life. It didn't necessarily mean it stopped you from killing yourself. And again, I don't want to downplay, any type of thing that would say no, a guy didn't stop from killing himself, or somebody, I don't want to.
Absolutely.
I don't want to downplay that in any way, shape, or form. But it's just that term, saving lives, or you saved my life, it can mean a detour in life. It doesn't always mean that somebody's going to kill themselves.
The flip side to that too, I'd want to add, is that in the particular context I'm talking about, if saving someone's life means getting them stuck in purgatory, red pill purgatory forever.
Purgatory.
You know what I mean? Where they're stuck there and it's like, women are terrible. Everyone's beta. It's just like all the same red pill. It's like, okay, these are good truths if you apply them wisely and kind of grow. But I always tell people that red pill is a semester, not a degree, right? Like it's not like a 40 degree.
I like that.
There's good truth in there that you learn, but it's like, okay, guys, like you can't make a degree out of this, and they get stuck there. And you think, hey, I'm really glad that you didn't zero yourself out, because guys do that. They work their whole life, they build something up, and they have a divorce where they get ripped apart, they lose their kids, the church turns the back on them because it's clearly no matter what, they'll blame the man for it. That's hard, man. That's hard on a guy. I get it, and I'm glad that some of those guys didn't shoot themselves, hang themselves or whatever. But a lot of them get stuck in a place that's not good either, where it's just like they truly do, they really do hate women. They straight up do.
Yeah.
I mean, like you hear them talk and like, there's no good women. I'm like, well, I'm really happy, and I'm not a pushover, and I love the woman I'm with, and there are some good women. So that's my thing. Like you save a life to put him in kind of a sort of jail forever, and that's not good either. So
Dwayne
I
Hicks
just found you on Twitter.
Dwayne Hicks.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I'm like,
And Mike, you think the next semester after the red pill is a black pill? You know, I'll answer this, and I actually do, because what I've been saying is the black pill is the new red pill. It is. It's more aligned with truth, and it's pissing a lot of people off. I'm finding that more guys are aligned with black pill ideologies and black pill truths than they are with the red pill, because the red pill, we'll call it the latest version of the red pill, keeps guys in that trauma loop. You don't get out.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, how if you don't keep them in the trauma loop, you're going to have to make new Gumroad classes.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to do new types of consulting.
Yeah.
And I don't want to hate here, but look, I'll tell you right now, I've been around the church for a long time. So I'm bivocational at my church. My church could afford me full time, but I don't want to be my church to be handcuffed to my salary. Especially in a time where we're coming into persecution. And I also like to have the flexibility myself. And I see a lot of pastors, though, that they just do the same thing to get money. They keep churches the same place. You know, there's all sorts of grifts out there. And the red pill stuff sounds like the same sort of stuff I saw in the charismatic church back in the day. Same thing. And they just keep these guys in a traumatized state so they can keep getting their money, right? And they give them what they want. You know what I mean? Now, right. Tony, I don't fully understand the black pill. It seems like it's like a version of like a more thoughtful version of MGTOW, right?
I mean, realistically to me, in fact, I will give a shout out to MD, because I've got both his books will be here either tomorrow or Saturday. And so I have links to the books, the 48 Laws of Dating and the Black Pill. And I am so looking forward to reading both these books. I always like books. I don't like Kindle or audio books. I like books. I like regular books for me. So I'm going to read those here.
I still like regular books too, man.
Yeah.
It's just something I find myself buying paperbacks. And
tactile, man. Yeah. You want to touch it, feel it, smell it.
Yeah, exactly.
I like to, lay upside down here on my couch with my feet up on the plant back here. And you know what I mean? I just like the book.
Like a teenager.
Yeah, or walk around the house. That's the way I read.
My publisher just told me we're getting our book published in hardback, and I was like, "Oh man, that's so cool!"
Oh wow!
And I can't wait to have it. I didn't know they were going to do that. I thought it was just going to be a paperback, but I think we pushed it past the page limit. So I was like, "Sweet."
I'd like you to, Michael Foster.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's great, man. That's good. Is there a link that I can put in this video?
Not yet. It took years off I feel like it took years off my life. The last couple of rewrites. So the first rewrites, the editors came back and they're like critiquing everything. And me and my co-author were so mad we didn't talk about it for a week. And then I came back. I was like, they're right. They're just making the book better. I'm just being a punk. I got to grow up. So we actually rewrote the book, and then we sent it, and they sent back another set of rewrites. And so it's done. I think we'll probably have a link for it sometime in late end of this month. It's due out in October. It's getting typeset right now, and it's at the final. It's getting pushed through the final proofreading, because you'll be amazed how many people can read a book and still there be missing particles and things, So I'll let you know. But Pat's gonna read it. I got a lot of people in the manosphere. Mr. Line guy, he said he would look at it for me, Mr. If you lean over, you're not.
Riv.
Yeah, Riv's good. He said he would look at it.
Okay.
So I sent it to a couple feminists too, because I thought like, hey, there's all press is good press. Let's just see. So I've got this storm of weird people, weird because they're so different, reviewing the book, and so we'll see how it plays out. See what sort of mess I can create.
Is that Rivellino on Twitter?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Yeah. After I saw his account, it's probably a year or so ago, I had to go back and look at all my old pictures, and I went, "Phew."
We took one. I had Emily took one. And when he criticized, I was slightly leaning in one because I'm just taller. I'm just trying to get us into the frame, man.
Yeah.
Don't lean in.
So what I did is I had Emily lay perpendicular to me on a table, And then I sat down. So Emily's like right here, perpendicular to me. And I sent the picture on Twitter. I was like, now who's alpha? Right.
Yeah.
She's like,
Yeah. Well, I'm 6'4", and my wife is 5'2", and she likes wearing heels, but that doesn't make up for
it.
lot of, yeah, it doesn't make up for a lot of height difference. So, but still, thank God I have a habit of just kind of standing up straight anyway, because I also like Tony with what you were talking about. I've looked at pictures before and been like, doesn't look like I'm leaning in. Looks like the only time that I ever get that is like if she's doing selfies in the car, and
Yeah.
you're
Yeah, you lean over. Yep.
yeah, but like that, you're both kind of like, hey, trying to make it into the frame, but yeah, I mean,
More power to
I
him
mean,
for building a huge Twitter account off that. Like at
yeah,
some of them, I'm like,
and
wow, okay.
But I gotta say, and I know Riv's. I want to say he's around my age. I'm 44. I want to say he's around the same age or
I get
something.
the sense he is. Yeah.
Yeah,
I've gone back and I think I had to delete a few because they were questionable.
Tony's like,
it's gonna work.
No,
Wait, am I
but some of
tilted a little bit?
yeah, but you know what? Some of the stuff, because it's all engagement, right? Like everything's showbiz, and some of the stuff that he says, with all due respect to the guy and everything, it's like, oh, if she wears Vans, she's a whore. It's like, come on, man. I'm in California. Everybody wears Vans. You know what I mean? Like,
What about hoop earring?
yeah. My 10-year-old wears Vans. What are you trying to say, dude? You know what I mean? It's like some of the stuff that, like he says,
but dudes
silly.
in the manosphere, they take that stuff serious.
I know.
It's amazing. They're like, you know what?
Yeah.
Vans are the devil, man. A chick wears a van.
Yeah.
Can't marry that chick. And you're like, well, look, he made an observation. I'm sure in whatever context it might have some validity to it. Like, I'm not trying to say there isn't like an association or whatever, but
hook up with a whore that was in Vans. I get it. But it's but one of the things that about like social media and even show business in general, nuance doesn't sell nearly as good as like the absolutes do.
absolutely.
So when you're like, all people are this, never do this, always do this, that's the stuff that gets engagement.
You look at those tweets and it's proverbial speech, if we want to put it in a positive light. Speech where we're given generalities. These things tend to be true, definitely resonate. And I think that's a sign. So like you look at the book of Proverbs in scripture, it's a father writing to his son on how to be a good king, how to be a productive, wise king. And I do think a lot of people have just grown up without that folk wisdom, right? Like this is why I told Rolo and the one time we talked on the phone, I told him in our phone call that everything, I said, hey, I read 2 of your books. I was like, they're good. I was like, but everything in your books, you could have got that from the cumulative wisdom of a 1920s bar. And my point to him was like, there's nothing like cutting edge here. This is just like stuff that people knew once upon a time that we lost, right? Yeah. Like, it's that we like, it used to be our uncles, it used to be our fathers or grandfathers would pass on this stuff. And so now it's Uncle Twitter, Grandpa YouTube. Yeah. You know what I mean? Passing this stuff on.
Absolutely correct. That's a lot of the stuff that I put out there as wisdom were just lessons that I learned from my grandfather. My grandfather was just one of the real ones. I mean, that guy was just like I've never met anyone like him, and I doubt that I ever will. And as a matter of fact, when I went into prison, I was still a kid. I was 23 years old, and one of the ways that, like, I mean, how there's the what would Jesus do? For me, like when I would be faced with various different situations or whatever, I would think, what would Grandpa Bob do? Yeah, I'm named. I'm the third. I'm named after him, and it was, what would he do? What would he do in that situation? And when I knew the answer, that's just what I do. I'd emulate it, and that's what a lot of it is a lot of this old school wisdom. I don't know if it was that, because that grandfather was born in 1930, but the one I grew up with was in 1920. But I don't know if it was just the boomers like weren't paying attention, because of the whole hippie stuff going on, or what.
Yep.
But it's like it was lost,
It
and
was.
it's not taught. And then someone comes along and starts saying something, and it's like, whoa, no way, that saved my life, or that's yeah. And it's just like, no, man, this was just stuff that was common knowledge back in the day. Just someone
I
stopped
told
paying
everyone I
attention.
built a huge following in the Christian world by simply saying common sense things, like
Yeah,
plainly without apology. I'm like, no, I'm not sorry for that. That's true. And
yeah,
what I think the problem is, so you talk about your grandpa Bob, is that
hmm
manhood is. I always tell people it's like 80% caught, 20% taught,
yeah,
and it's just so you think what would Grandpa Bob's for me was Paul Peets was
yeah,
he's not my biological grandfather, but he married my grandmother, and I knew him my whole life. He was the toughest man I ever knew. A farmer, ex
yeah,
correctional officer. I watched him once. He was putting a slate roof on our barn. It literally ripped all the skin off his thumb. I could see his bone, and he had this
man,
handkerchief. He ripped it off, or wrapped it around, then finished it. Then went in there and poured iodine on it. Now, young folks might not understand what iodine is, but that stuff stings,
yeah,
man. It stings
yeah,
bad. And it was just like that. He had a pot of coffee every freaking morning,
hmm
and like a bowl of cornflakes and like a bunch of fried eggs, lived to be 90 something. And when he was like
yeah,
71, he was still the toughest man I ever knew. So much of my ideas of what it meant to be a man, and he barely talked. Like he rarely said anything.
yeah,
It's just by
yeah,
watching them, right? And so many guys they're like clinging to Twitter accounts and guys desperately to learn. And I
hmm
always have people that like think my life's way more awesome than it actually is. I'm like, look, I'm really happy with my life, man, but I keep getting the sense that you think something's going on that's not going. So, how many acres do you have on your farm? My farm's about 3 acres. That's all it is. It's not that huge,
yeah,
But they imagine in their head. I have people like, "What's it like being on like 50 acres?" Like, you tell me, buddy. I don't know. Where do you guys
yeah,
get these ideas from? But they imagine, they live through you just like you
right,
do. But the thing is, that people that see online, that's curated. That's because that's what online is. It's not an insult. You curate things. I don't put all my
right.
crap out there.
Let me,
That's funny that you say that. I'm sorry, just real quick about your grandfather with the thumb, because I watched my grandfather stick his finger into a moving airplane propeller. So I grew up flying airplanes. My grandfather had an aviation business, and we had to do an emergency. We were flying ultralights, which are like they look like
Sure.
the skeleton of an airplane.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and we did an emergency landing on this highway, and some cars had backed up, and he told me,
Oh,
"I'm going to take
wow.
off that way," and stuck his pointer finger right into a propeller. And when he did it, I mean, it was literally, he just went, "Bob, I just stuck my finger in the propeller. Go ahead and taxi this aircraft off the runway so these cars can go by. Also radio back to camp that we've got an emergency. We're going to need to call out services. See if we can't find the finger. Call your," and he just started issuing orders. I was a 17-year-old kid, just like, and like, he didn't yell or scream or whatever. It was just very, and I mean, for the rest of his life, he was like that. We did end up finding the figure, by the way. But
Just
the
kept
thing
it in a
is
pickle
that the
jar up on the
well,
mantle.
no, the thing was is that the leading edge of propellers, they taper, so they're thick at
Yeah.
the base, and then they go thin at the very end. So the part that caught him was about, I don't know, probably about a quarter to a half inch thick.
Super
So
damaged then, yeah.
that was just to the wind, right?
Hmm.
But I mean, that was him for the rest of his life. But I mean, it was just the craziest freaking thing I ever saw, man. And like, he did not miss a beat. He just
Oh,
started
wow.
issuing orders, and I
That's
was just like,
amazing.
whoa. So when you said that about, it reminded me, because it's like, man, same thing, man. Yeah.
This dude was up
Uh,
on like a 20-foot ladder. It's a slate roof, and it falls down and just rips it right off. And he's like, "Huh?" And he rips his bandana out, goes around it like it's nothing. And
yeah.
I grew up in Kansas City till I was 7 or
Mhm.
6, and I got sent away to live with my grandparents. So I was raised by a Holocaust survivor and a correctional
Mhm.
officer. right? That's
Oh,
who
wow.
I was raised by. And
Wow.
and so I don't know how to bottle it up, but that's what men need.
Yeah.
You know, it's what they need. And it's not the machismo, not the macho BS. You talking about walking someone down at 21, right? Because that's
Hmm.
machismo, talking like it's not real. It's not real masculinity. They're really not ready
Right.
to go. They're talking. And that's what a lot of the stuff I see online is like. Tony and I've talked about this. Like, you know, I grew up in a pretty rough neighborhood, and you kind of know guys that are dangerous and guys that aren't. Like, you know, the
Hmm.
real deal real quick. These guys just don't know any real men, and they desperately need fathers and brothers that will lift them up. So, anyway,
I'm going to
Yeah.
into the comments real quick. Dwayne Hicks says, would you have face LMS or wheat waffles on your stream? Yes, I've heard of them, and yes, of course I would. Um, you know, that'd be awesome, especially face and LMS. So LMS stands for looks, money, and status, just so you guys know.
gotcha.
Okay.
Then I want to go down to Joe because Joe's a regular here, and he's got some. I want you guys to check this out now. What he says, you
Okay.
guys think karma is real or no? I've done a heck of a lot of good for my community, but just keep suffering, getting agitated. Help out old ladies, shovel neighbors' driveways, donate goods to the Salvation Army, listen, help others in pain, and I get jack squat in return. Granted, I ask for nothing for my selflessness. And so he says, this so-called higher power must love taking a dump on me all day.
That's a lot of weird
Um,
mixtures of ideas. So you've got a higher power. So you're talking about an individual entity. So that's something that's a little closer to a Christian understanding. With karma comes from ultimate reality. So so you've basically got oneism or twoism. Oneism is that everything is really part of the same stuff, and the divisions between the one and the many is fake. So in other words, we're all part of Brahman in a sort of Hinduistic sort of way of looking at things. So when you're part of like the religious aspects of Buddhism or Hinduism is about realizing that suffering is not real. And in that system, in the Hinduistic system, that when you're reincarnated, you're either rewarded or punished for karma. Okay. Where in a Christian world, God exists before and creates everything from nothing. And it's not like you're part of God, but you're made by God. And so I think you're like, there's two ideas there. But with karma, if karma is real, either the world should be as terrible as possible or better, right? Like if karma is doing its job and reincarnation's doing it, you know. So I don't believe in karma as a spiritual rule. I do think if you tend to treat people well, they tend to mirror that back to you. That's like a rule of sales. In sales, you use emotional transference, you know. Well, Christ doesn't owe you crap. I mean, like, not to be mean, but like you can't indebt God to you, right? It doesn't work that way. Like, but I would tell you that you come to God in faith and humility, humble yourself, believe the gospel, you know, then you'll do those things just to honor God. You'll look forward to eternity and not just for rewards in this life. Not that there's not good things that come from living a righteous life, but the joy is watching and helping those people or whatever.
I think the way people understand karma is a little bit different than actually like what the Vedic scriptures describe
Gotcha.
it as, because like karma isn't so much like as a you do bad, you're gonna get paid back. You do good, you're gonna get paid back. It's just kind of it is what it is. It's almost dispassionate. I think that the way people tend to understand karma in the popular culture is can be sometimes on par with even the teachings of Christ, in so much as you reap, so shall you sow, right? And that is, I think, more the way people understand it. Is if I do good, then good will happen. If I do bad, then bad will happen. To where karma, like real karma, like if you're reading the Vedic scriptures, it's not that simple. But there is that idea. I mean, Christ said it, the cup that you measure with is going to be the cup that you're measured with, so it's like, at the same time, though, I totally agree with what you just said, is that God isn't indebted. We can't like earn God's favor, or like he can give it to us through grace, and it's more likely to come to us if we're following his teachings and doing right than it is if we're doing wrong, obviously. But it's one of those things to where you can't, and I'm not saying you're doing this, Joe, but you can't do favors like you're expecting receipts. Like you can't pay out.
He does mention that back here, though,
Yeah.
that he's not doing anything. But I, you know what? I get exactly what he's saying, because I think I've been there in my life, where I kind of say, well, I've been a good person. I've done this. So why, you know what I mean? Why is this shit happening to me? And that's that's a tough place to be sometimes, when you say,
Job asked that.
Yeah.
And he was like super duper, like he was, I mean, that was someone that had all the favor from God, and then and even he had a breaking point, like his family's killed, he's got all this, and it's like, why is this going, and where finally he had to break down. So I think the lesson there, I mean, or one of the lessons maybe, is that we have these tribulations in our life, or we have these times in our life to where, and kind of coming back to what we were talking about earlier with despair, to where it just feels like all hope is just lost. And the thing is, we know from scripture, faith, hope, and love, right? And hope not in the way that we understand it in the English, to where hey, I hope I get that car, but more along the lines of the Greek translations, to where it's like expecting, it's like you live in the expectation of Christ returning. You don't live in the hope, like, hey, I hope he comes back.
Yeah.
No, you're expecting him to come back, and that's more the accurate. It's just there's lack of a good word, but you don't want to despair, and some of these things, man, I mean, as cliche as it may sound, it just makes you that much a better person going through it and coming out the other end.
I hear what Joe
really
say.
does.
Like, for his question, he says, why does Bill Gates prosper? Well, that's a big question throughout scripture. Why do the wicked prosper? Like, if you Google that, you'll see that comes up over and over again.
Yeah.
And so the answer is that the world is fallen. It's under a curse. And think of the people that ride high for a long time, and then come to nothing, right? A lot of people come to nothing in this life. There's temporal consequences for doing wrong, for sinning, for loving your sin or whatever. So there's people who have tumbled to nothing that we just was kind of we're blown away by. That one moment they were a big deal, and the next moment they're gone, right? The other thing I would say, though, is that for your good works, is that I think probably what has to happen for a lot of people is they have to have a more accurate view of themselves and just how bad they are, which is hard because a lot of people feel beat down and kicked down or whatever. But that grace is God's unmerited favor. God loves you not because of what you do, but because of what Christ has accomplished. And so I don't work for heaven at all. That's not my goal. I'm not trying to earn my way to heaven. I've been adopted into the family of God by his grace, which was accomplished by Jesus through his perfect life and perfect death on the cross. So now all the merit, all the perfect good deeds were done by Jesus. Everything was done on the cross and made me right with God. And by that, I'm saved and made a son of God. So now when I work for God out of gratitude, knowing that that will lead to some good things in this life, by all means. If you don't sleep around with chicks, like be immoral all the time, it's pretty hard to get a STD. You know, it's pretty hard to get all screwed up, right? You know, me and my wife, we've been together since high school. We've been married for just 18 years, coming up on 20.
Oh,
Been
wow.
together.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, we just had our 18th
that's
anniversary, and we've been together since we were in high school. So
Cool.
I don't have a lot of the problems that a lot of guys have, like bonding issues. I wasn't screwed over by a ton of women or whatever. It's just been me and my wife our whole life, right? And there's like a lot of real blessings that come from that. So living a life that lines up with God's word, His law, is better. But yeah, good for you, man. But it doesn't. You're not promised perfect peace in this life. And I'm after God, I'm just trying to obey God's mission, God's call, to live holy, to see His kingdom come to bear. That's why I go to things like 21. I want everybody to know Jesus. I want to speak to issues. I want to be involved in the public square. And I would just say, instead of looking for those people to love you back, I mean, honestly, I don't know if you read Robert Glover's Mr. Nice Guy, but I don't mean this as an attack. I hope you don't take it that way. There's a lot of nice guy logic going on in some of your comments. I would read that book if you haven't read it. I think it might be helpful to you.
Very good book.
Yeah, very. I think you know what, that's the actual godfather of the manosphere. I don't know what other people say. That's like the book that started everything in the online space. But those are some thoughts I have. I don't know if they're helpful, but to what everyone's saying is don't lose heart and do things because you want to do them, not because you're looking to get payment.
Yeah, that's good. In fact, his book is one of the ones. I've got a bunch of books that I've lent out that I never got back, and I'm happy. When I give somebody a book, if it doesn't come back, that's fine. Yeah.
Bobby, it was a pleasure meeting you. I need to get to bed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I do too.
We'll go ahead and wrap it up here anyways. I like this. Where is it? Here it is. I'm lucky to be a Chad Light with options, Michael.
Good for you, man. The world is your oyster.
Godspeed. Yeah.
But let's wrap it up. Bobby Dino, any last thoughts, man? I appreciate you coming on tonight and just giving some of your story, man. And I hope it helped a lot of people out. I really do. You know.
Well, thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure, Tony, and I really mean that. And Michael, this is fortuitous, man. I'm glad that I got to meet you and chat. So awesome. Glad
and
to have come on.
Just so you know, every Thursday night, I usually do Saturdays. I'm taking 3-4 months off of Saturday nights, but you are always welcome to jump on the stream anytime. A lot of Thursday nights we have a full panel. You know, it just fills right up. So feel free to jump on anytime. I always pin the StreamYard link in the chat. So if somebody wants to join, you know, that's what we're here for. So
cool.
I come because it's the front lines. That's what I like about it. Yeah. I like that I never knew who I'm going to talk to. And they're guys like from all over the place, like the realest guys. And it's like it keeps me anchored. So I'm not stuck in some sort of Christian ghetto or whatever. It's like really helpful. It reminds me of my upbringing. Honestly, I'm like, oh yeah, these are my people. These are
awesome.
I want to give out a reading assignment too, because I did leave links to MD's books in the description of the video. So I do have the Black Pill and the 48 Laws of Dating. He prices them at $10 a book. I mean, you can't get any cheaper than that. Let's get real. You know, so there's a reading assignment for Bobby Dino and Michael Foster, 48 Laws of Dating and the Black Pill. I think I'm so excited to read both these books. I just ordered them. I have to read them. So, and I look forward to more MD's books coming out. I think he's a smart, intelligent guy, and I can't, you know, I love when he comes on the stream. I know he's busy writing now. I don't know if he had his last stream on MGTOW Dictionary on Saturday night, but it was quite a stream. He got a lot of love Saturday night, and I was happy for him. You know, a lot of guys are going to miss that stream on Saturday nights. It was pretty powerful. It was really good. I hope that, he comes back. I have a lot of respect for him and his channel. A lot of the guys that have, come over to my channel and check me out. And I appreciate everybody, but I just want to give a special shout out to him and his, I don't know if it was his last stream or this Saturday night, but, even Michael Foster, if you get a chance Saturday night, I don't know if he's going to stream this Saturday night, but drop in and say hi. He does have a new channel coming on, the Knowledge Channel. And he did mention you, Michael Foster, that he'd love to have you on there. So
talk theology again.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, it's good to have intelligent guys and, and having ideas opened up and that people can talk about them and they can get heated discussions and heated debates sometimes. But to me, it's the character of a man is shown on how you leave that debate and how you leave that discussion, And to me, that's character when people can leave and still be friends and, that's important. So, but that's what we're doing here. So, but that's the reading assignment, The Black Pill and the 48 Laws of Dating. So $10 books. I mean, come on, most people spend $20 on a couple cups of coffee, so he priced them reasonably, but I'm really curious for you to read them, Michael Foster. And
I'm finishing a book on death, dealing with the death of a child based on the death of my daughter. So I'm writing that right now. So once that gets over to the publisher, the next book I'm on to is writing a book on marriage that interacts with MGTOW, like a Christian book. A lot of Christian books don't interact. Like these guys don't know that these millennial girls have had like 14 sexual partners. They have no clue. These pastors have no clue what they're dealing with. And so I'm trying to write a book that interacts with the issues. Like guys are scared to get married. They're questioning whether they should actually have marriage license. They're thinking all this stuff through. So I'm trying to, I'd actually read a book like probably The Black Pill. I don't really care about the 48 Laws of Dating. I'll be honest with you, but
I'm just curious because the reason I say you might just to get an insight on the dating world.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm willing to read that stuff. I just finished. I just went through all the old school books. I finished all the men are. There's a lot of them. All the men are from Mars, women are from Venus books. That it was actually surprisingly not as lame as I was expecting it to be. I was like, oh, okay, because I've been, I read about a book a week somewhere in that area, and so I'm gearing up for this book on marriage that I will write next year. But I am trying to look at those hard, trying to take MGTOW seriously, like aspects of it I take seriously. Other things I'm just like, no, I've helped a lot of young people get married and their marriages are doing just fine. And all their kids look like freaking clones of both of them. They're not, because like anytime you see a happy marriage, you're like, oh, he's just a cuck. I'm like, no, you're projecting, buddy. Yeah. You're projecting. Yeah. Okay. Like some are, but not all. Okay. Like, I was really, Anthony was talking about just how impressed he was by what he saw up in Utah, Anthony Johnson. And I was like, yeah, there's lots of parts of America where there are intact family units still, but it's becoming an endangered species, but it's not extinct. So, but I want to take their things they have to say honest. So I'll take a look at it without a doubt.
Excellent. Well, you guys want to hang real quick backstage. I'm going to end the stream. Sure. I do want everybody to know you can reach me on Twitter and Instagram at T21Surfer. I got a link in the description, but that's T21Surfer if you want to direct message me or anything like that. But that's how you can contact me. Go ahead and, subscribe, like, share the whole thing, ring the bell, everything. But we're going to keep this moving every Thursday night. We'll pick up on Saturday nights. Probably in about a month, I think I'll start doing Saturdays also. And those streams ended up pretty long. I've had some go as long as about 7 hours. So we've had a lot of fun, but I'm going to continue on. So I want to keep guys talking, and I want to keep guys safe, men and women. This isn't just for men; it's for women also. So share it and come back and join us. Bobby Dino, I appreciate you coming on tonight, man. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Tony. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Michael Foster, always a pleasure.
Likewise.
Always. So we'll end it. Guys, everybody in the chat, Dwayne, Joe Blow, everybody, man, appreciate y'all coming in. Emmanuel, I'm sure I've missed somebody, but yeah, everybody come back next Thursday night, and we'll hit up another reality check. We are out.
Awesome.
Thank you.
See ya.